Chapter 3962. Jing Lianmeng was completely dumbfounded. She didn't expect that she would be slapped by a mere outer disciple. How could she bear it? "You're courting death. I'll kill you!" Jing Lianmeng screamed, her eyes filled with blazing killing intent. The yin and yang energy in her body suddenly surged out, and her whole body was filled with extremely terrifying energy ripples. "Kill me? You're not qualified to do that." Zhuowen shook his head and slapped out with his left hand. Suddenly, the yin and yang energy around Jing Lianmeng's body was easily dispersed by his slap. This slap was ruthlessly imprinted on Jing Lianmeng's cheek. Jing Lianmeng spun a few rounds in the air and spat out a mouthful of blood. If one looked carefully, one would see that the blood was mixed with several teeth. Plop! Jing Lianmeng fell to the ground in a sorry state. Her cheeks were completely red and swollen, and she almost fainted. Mo Hongxian, who was originally blocking Luo Lingyu, heard the commotion behind him and couldn't help but turn around. When he saw that Jing Lianmeng had fainted, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Luo Lingyu also revealed a surprised expression. Jing Lianmeng was a yin-yang transformation middle stage expert, and her strength was definitely not weak. However, she was actually knocked unconscious by Zhuowen's 2 slaps. Just how strong was Zhuowen? Thinking of this, Luo Lingyu's heart was filled with complicated feelings. She remembered that Zhuowen was also very strong, but not to this extent. Blue Luan Shengzhen and Honggu Shengzhen, who were still exchanging pleasantries, were naturally attracted by the commotion over at Zhuowen's side. When the old man led by Blue Luan Shengzhen saw that Jing Lianmeng had been slapped unconscious by Zhuowen, his face suddenly became a little ugly. Pei Shanglong frowned slightly. He looked at Zhuowen and his heart trembled slightly. He had some impression of this young man in front of him. He was one of the disciples who had participated in the entrance trial not long ago. However, Pei Shanglong had not expected that this disciple, whom he did not care much about at the beginning, would be able to easily knock out Jing Lianmeng. Pei Shanglong naturally knew of Jing Lianmeng. She was an inner disciple of Blue Phoenix Shengzhen. Her talent and strength were not bad, but she had defeated many of their Honggu Shengzhen's inner disciples. Pei Shanglong silently looked at Zhuowen, his eyes revealing a look of great interest. It seemed that he had misjudged him. This young man was not simple. Mo Hongxian's face was ugly. He helped the unconscious Jing Lianmeng up and looked coldly at Zhuowen, saying, "How dare you injure my junior sister? You're just an outer sect disciple. Who gave you the guts?" Zhuowen was so angry that he laughed. This Mo Hongxian was really shameless. It was clearly Jing Lianmeng who attacked him first. Could it be that he was just going to stand there and let Jing Lianmeng hit him without any resistance? A good dog doesn't block the way. If you don't scram, I'll kill you. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with murderous intent. These 2 people had made things difficult for him time and time again. Even a clay figurine would get angry, let alone him. Good. How dare you threaten to kill me? Then don't blame me for killing you." Mo Hongxian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His heart was filled with anger. This ant in front of him dared to act recklessly. After knocking out his Dao companion, he even threatened to kill him if he didn't scram. What right did he have to say such words to him? Mo Hongxian put Jing Lianmeng aside and floated in the air. The terrifying aura of a half-step god realm instantly burst out from his body. A terrifying pressure spread out, causing the surrounding atmosphere to become very heavy. Luo Lingyu frowned. She felt that Mo Hongxian was completely unreasonable. Just as she was about to speak, Blue Phoenix Shengzhen and the others had already arrived beside her. "Lingyu, what's going on here? Why did this Honggu Shengzhen's outer disciple have a conflict with you?" The old man from Blue Phoenix Shengzhen asked with a frown. Luo Lingyu heaved a sigh of relief and recounted everything that had happened earlier. She said, "Elder Wu, this has nothing to do with junior brother Daowin. It's senior brother Mo and senior sister Jing who were overbearing. That's why things ended up like this. The old man frowned and said, Lingyu, are you still a member of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen? No matter what Hong Xian and Lianmeng did, they naturally had their reasons. However, this outer disciple actually dared to attack Lianmeng. This is his fault. When he spoke up to hear, the old man gazed at Pei Shanglong, who'd rushed over, and said, Elder Pei, your disciple beat up our disciple. So this is a matter between disciples. I presume that Elder Pei won't interfere, right? Pei Shanglong frowned slightly. He naturally understood the old man's meaning. This old man was telling him not to interfere in the battle between Mo Hongxian and Zhuowen. It had to be said that Zhuowen's crushing of Jing Lianmeng had given him quite a pleasant surprise. However, he still didn't think that Zhuowen was a match for Mo Hongxian. After all, Mo Hongxian was the #1 disciple of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen. His cultivation had even reached the half-step transformation stage of the God domain. What? Elder Pei, do you plan to interfere in the matters of the younger generation? The old man said coldly. Pei Shanglong's eyes flickered. He shook his head and said, Elder Wu, don't worry. Since it's a grudge between the younger generation, I naturally won't interfere. However, I hope to stop when it's appropriate. The old man smiled slightly but didn't give Pei Shanglong any reply. Stop when it's appropriate? That was a dream. If someone beat up a disciple of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen, they would at least cripple him. It would be best if they were beaten to death. Mo Hongxian's aura was like a rainbow. He looked at Zhuowen arrogantly and said, Aunt, which hand did you use to beat Junior's sister, Lianmeng? Chop it off for me now, and maybe I'll spare your dog life. Aunt, we still don't know who's the aunt here. Zhuowen sneered. He didn't want to waste any more words with Mo Hongxian. He took a step forward, and a terrifying yin and yang energy surged out like a tsunami. Whoosh! Zhuowen was like an arrow that left the bow. He tore through the air and appeared in front of Mo Hongxian. You're courting death. Mo Hongxian sneered. He formed a palm with his right hand and slammed it towards Zhuowen's head. He exerted all of his strength. Waves of yin and yang energy poured out. Moreover, because he was a half-step transformation of the God domain, the embryonic form of the God domain surged around him, affecting Zhuowen's movements. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was also at the half-step transformation stage of the God domain. His strength was much stronger than Mo Hongxian's, not to mention Mo Hongxian, who was at the half-step transformation stage of the God domain. Even the God domain of a true transformation stage of the God domain wouldn't be able to affect him. You're not affected at all. Mo Hongxian was shocked when he saw Zhuowen's unhurried steps and unhindered right fist. What shocked him even more was that the power that erupted from Zhuowen's punch was simply too powerful. It was so powerful to the point that it made him fearful. You should be the one who should die. Zhuowen's eyes were cold and merciless. His fist landed on Mo Hongxian's right palm. His fist was too terrifying. It crushed Mo Hongxian's right palm into powder. His fist continued forward, turning Mo Hongxian's right arm and right shoulder into a bloody pulp. Mo Hongxian screamed in horror and retreated in the air. He clutched his right arm and looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. Unfortunately, his shock didn't last long. Zhuowen appeared above him like a ghost. His right hand formed a palm and slammed into Mo Hongxian's head. Puchi, Chapter 3963. Plop! Mo Hongxian's corpse fell from midair, stirring up a cloud of dust. Everyone from Qinghuan Shenzhen fell into disbelief. Even Pei Shanglong and the others from Hongwu Shenzhen were dumbfounded. No one expected Mo Hongxian, who had defeated all the inner disciples of Hongwu Shenzhen, to be killed. In the end, he was actually killed by an unknown outer sect disciple of the Hong martial sacred sect in one move. This was simply too inconceivable, and it impacted everyone's nerves. The moment Zhuowen killed Mo Hongxian, He looked coldly at the stunned crowd. Ignoring their surprise, he turned into a rainbow and left the place. After Zhuo Wen left for a while, the people from Qingwan Shenzhen came back to their senses. The old man was furious and said, "How dare you kill a disciple of Qingwan Shenzhen in front of me? You're courting death." With that, the old man was about to chase after Zhuo Wen, but he was stopped by Pei Shanglong. "Elder Pei, what do you mean by this?" The old man's face was gloomy as he looked at Pei Shanglong, who was blocking his way. Pei Shanglong's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "Elder Wu, I think there must be some misunderstanding. Don't worry, I'll slowly find out the truth for you." The old man was flustered and exasperated. He said, "What's there to find out? This kid killed the #1 inner disciple of Qingwan Shenzhen in front of us. You should capture him immediately and hand him over to Qingwan Shenzhen." Pei Shanglong's face was gloomy. He had given Elder Wu enough face, but unfortunately, Elder Wu did not give him any face. "Elder Wu, and I saw it clearly just now. It was Mo Hongxian from Qingwan Shenzhen who attacked Hongwu Shenzhen's disciple first. Moreover, he used a killing move as soon as he attacked. That disciple was only defending himself. He accidentally killed Mo Hongxian. This is not the fault of Hongwu Shenzhen's disciple. On the contrary, Qingwan Shenzhen is unforgiving." Pei Shanglong's tone became very tough. He did not give Elder Wu any face. If Zhuo Wen was just an ordinary outer disciple, Mo Hongxian would have killed him and Pei Shanglong would not have cared. However, Zhuo Wen was obviously not. He was extremely strong. Even Mo Hongxian was easily killed by him. It could be seen that Zhuo Wen's strength was extraordinary. Pei Shanglong knew that with Zhuo Wen's participation in the upcoming Four Sacred Sects martial competition, their Hong martial sacred sect would be able to shock the world. No matter what, Pei Shanglong would not let Elder Wu have such a talent. Elder Wu's face changed slightly. He naturally understood why Pei Shanglong was so biased toward Zhuo Wen. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. After all, he was in Hongwu Shenzhen's territory. If he dared to make a scene here and angered Pei Shanglong, it was very likely that he would not be able to leave. "Humph! Elder Pei, I will remember today's matter in my heart. Goodbye." Elder Wu was very sullen. He snorted coldly and left with Qingwan Shenzhen's disciple. In Qingwan Shenzhen's team, Luo Lingyu, who was originally worried about Zhuo Wen, was relieved when she saw Pei Shanglong's biased words towards Zhuo Wen. At the same time, she was inexplicably shocked by Zhuo Wen's strength. She did not expect Zhuo Wen's strength to improve so quickly. It had not been long since they last met, and even Mo Hongxian was far from being Zhuo Wen's opponent. With junior brother Daowen's current strength, I'm afraid he already has the strength to kill Shi Shenhong. Luo Lingyu muttered to herself. She was extremely excited. She came to Liyuan main region alone and went through untold hardships to join Qingwan Shenzhen. Wasn't it all for the sake of success? Wasn't it to avenge her master and kill Shi Shenhong? Luo Lingyu gradually calmed down. Previously, she had made an agreement with Zhuo Wen. If Zhuo Wen really had the strength to kill Shi Shenhong, he would definitely bring her back to Wukong province and to Hongwu sect. After Pei Shanglong silently watched Qingwan Shenzhen's team leave, a middle-aged man beside him said worriedly, "Elder, it doesn't seem worth it to offend Elder Wu of Qingwan Shenzhen for a mere outer disciple." Pei Shanglong smiled and said, "That may not be the case. The fact that he could kill Mo Hongxian so easily shows that his strength is extraordinary. Coincidentally, the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition is just around the corner. Our Hong Wu Shenzhen's outer and inner disciples are not as good as Qingwan Shenzhen. Do you think our Hong Wu Shenzhen will lose if this person participates?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man bowed in respect, thinking that Pei Shanglong was far-sighted. "Go back and check on this person's information, then pass it to me. When he returns to the sect, immediately promote him to an inner disciple and let him represent Hong Wu Shengzhen to participate in the 4th Shengzhen martial arts competition. After Pei Shanglong had finished speaking, he went back to the sect. The rest of the people started to check on Zhuowen's information. Zhuowen naturally didn't know that Pei Shanglong had taken note of him and even planned to let him participate in the 4th Shengzhen martial arts competition. After he left the entrance of Hong Wu Shengzhen, he immediately went to the cave outside the Great Word Incantation Forest. After he entered the cave, he realized that the Great Word Incantation Forest that he had destroyed had reappeared. He knew that it must have been rearranged by Shan Lingyun. He had destroyed the Great Word Incantation Forest before, so the Great Word Incantation Forest wasn't an obstacle to him. However, Zhuowen didn't try to destroy the Great Word Incantation Forest. After he found the exit, he took the opportunity to leave the Great Word Incantation Forest and went to the valley behind the Great Word Incantation Forest. In the valley, there were beautiful mountains and clear waters. There were pavilions and terraces. In the courtyard in front of the pavilion in the middle of the valley, a little Lolita was lying comfortably on a wooden stick. Her hands were crossed over her head, and she was sleeping soundly. Zhuowen shook his head and went to the courtyard. He realized that the courtyard was in a mess. There were dead leaves and debris everywhere. He didn't plan to wake Shan Lingyun up. Instead, he took the broom in the courtyard and silently swept the debris in the courtyard. He tidied up the items that were lying around in the courtyard. With Zhuowen's cultivation, he only needed to use his divine power to solve these problems. However, he also knew that if he used his divine power, he would definitely wake Shan Lingyun up. Therefore, he chose to do it himself. After he finished tidying up the courtyard, a few hours had passed. Zhuowen sat in the courtyard. As he waited for Shan Lingyun to wake up, he silently practiced the art of spiritual speech. During this period of time, his progress in the art of spiritual speech was extremely fast. He had already mastered it, especially when it was combined with the third eye. The range that he could search had increased greatly. At this moment, the wooden staff that was floating in the air stealthily descended. The little Loli lying on top of it slowly opened her eyes, yawned loudly, and stretched her body. Chapter 3964. I've actually slept for 10 days and 10 nights. No wonder I feel a little hungry. I need to absorb some energy, to replenish my energy. Shan Lingyun said in boredom. The tail of the wooden staff tapped Shan Lingyun's shoulder lightly, and the latter asked curiously, Amu, what's wrong? The tail of the wooden staff pointed in Zhuowen's direction, and Shan Lingyun looked over, and her big eyes instantly lit up. This brat is finally back. No wonder I felt that the courtyard was so tidy. So it was this brat who tidied it. Master really didn't dote on him for nothing. He's actually so obedient. Shan Lingyun smiled as she walked towards Zhuowen and muttered to herself. Zhuowen seemed to have sensed something, and he slowly opened his eyes and immediately saw a pair of big eyes looking at him. This pair of big eyes was very close to him, and after noticing that he had opened his eyes, the big eyes quickly retreated, revealing a young, lowly face. Master, you're finally awake, Zhuowen said with a smile. Shan Lingyun placed her hands behind her back and said in an old-fashioned manner, Disciple, didn't you say that you went to the Falling Star Mountain? What did you get there? Zhuowen smiled faintly and took out a star core from the great world and handed it to Shan Lingyun. This is the star core. You got it from the Falling Star Mountain. Shan Lingyun received the star core, and her big eyes revealed a look of shock. She immediately recognized the star core. It's the star core. I think that after obtaining this star core, Master should be able to use the soul speech art to search the entire 100 territories for me to find Moyan Wushang. Zhuowen said. Shan Lingyun looked left and right and clicked her tongue in wonder. If I use the soul speech art to search the 100 territories, I'll need at least 10,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins. However, the star core is much better than 10,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins. then the probability of me finding your friend will be higher. Zhuo was excited he could finally find Moyan Wushang. When Shan Lingyun saw that Zhuo was in such a hurry, she curled her lips and was a little unhappy. However, she did not say anything. Instead, she said, "If I want to search the 100 outer regions, I have to use the great language spiritual art. This is a forbidden art. I need to prepare for 3 days. After 3 days, I will use this art." Hearing this, Zhuo nodded. After all, he had already waited for so long. Waiting for another 3 days was a piece of cake. How's your cultivation of the spirit speech technique going? Show it to your master. Shan Lingyun placed her hands behind her back and paced back and forth in front of Zhuo. She looked like an elder. It was just that it was a little ridiculous for such a little lowly to pretend to be an elder. Zhuo didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he didn't refuse. Instead, he began to use the art of spiritual speech and opened the heaven's eye between his brows. An invisible ripple spread out from his heaven's eye, and the world changed color because of it. Shan Lingyun's big eyes were filled with astonishment. She muttered to herself, "How long has it been? This kid has already cultivated the art of spiritual speech to a small success? This is unbelievable. His comprehension is a little heaven-defying." Zhuo closed his heaven's eye and opened it again. He looked at Shan Lingyun and said, "Master, how is it?" Shan Lingyun coughed and said, "The art of spiritual speech is unfathomable. Your talent is indeed not bad, but you can't be arrogant because of this. You have to work hard to learn. Do you understand?" "Master is right." Zhuo nodded seriously. When Shan Lingyun saw that Zhuo was so serious and obedient, she felt a little embarrassed. Her cheeks were flushed red, and she looked very attractive. For the next 3 days, Zhuo stayed in the valley. Shan Lingyun taught Zhuo by word of mouth and by example. She helped Zhuo solve any problems that he encountered in the art of spiritual speech. After Shan Lingyun's guidance, Zhuo was suddenly enlightened. Some areas that he didn't understand at first were immediately understood. The more Shan Lingyun taught Zhuo, the more surprised she was. Zhuo's comprehension was too strong. She didn't need to explain too much. Zhuo immediately understood what she meant. He could even infer many things from one example and point out some areas that she didn't think of. 3 days later, Shan Lingyun and Zhuo came to the small pond under the waterfall in the depths of the valley. Shan Lingyun took out a praying mat and sat cross-legged on it. Her small hand was holding the heart of stars. "Disciple, Master is going to perform the art of spiritual speech. This art must not be disturbed. You must protect me well," Shan Lingyun said seriously. Zhuo quickly nodded, indicating that he would not let anything disturb Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun didn't say anything else. She closed her eyes, and the heaven's eye between her eyebrows opened. The heart of stars in Shan Lingyun's hand floated up on its own. Waves of pure energy flowed into the heavens eye between her eyebrows. At the same time, Shan Lingyun's hands formed an extremely complicated seal. Suddenly, a blazing white light shot out from Shan Lingyun's heaven's eye and shot up into the sky. After the white light shot up to the highest point of the sky, it condensed and changed continuously. Finally, it formed a huge eyeball that was thousands of feet in size. The eyeball was so big that it almost covered the sky. The black pupil in the sky kept turning as if it was looking for something. A terrifying aura surged out from the eyeball. The entire Hanggu Shenzhen was alarmed. Some of the weaker disciples couldn't withstand the aura and knelt down on the ground. The higher-ups of Hanggu Shenzhen raised their heads and looked at the huge eyeball in the sky. They were shocked. Someone even exclaimed, "This is Master Shan's art of spiritual speech." How can it be? In the deepest part of the Hong martial sacred sect, there was a majestic palace. A vast aura suddenly burst out from within. In the deepest part of the palace, a burly white-haired youth suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying aura surged out from his body. Ling Yun, why is she using the art of spiritual speech? This is a forbidden art. It will shorten one's lifespan. This is ridiculous. The white-haired youth suddenly rushed out of the palace and turned into a ray of light. He rushed into the valley of the art of spiritual speech outside of Hongwu Shenzhen. At the same time, the huge eyeball in the sky suddenly dispersed and turned into countless tiny eyeballs. These eyeballs scattered in all directions. Many of them even traveled through time and space and jumped to another space to search. Zhuowen was also shocked by Shan Lingyun's move. He didn't expect the art of spiritual speech to be so powerful. The aura of the huge eyeball almost made him want to worship it. Just as Zhuowen was shocked by the power of the art of spiritual speech, the white-haired youth had already landed in the valley. He ignored the obstruction of the art of spiritual speech and walked into the valley leisurely. It was only when the white-haired youth came to Zhuowen's side that Zhuowen felt something. He suddenly stepped back and stared at the white-haired youth. This was because he didn't even notice when the white-haired youth appeared. Chapter 3965. Who are you? Zhuowen looked at the white-haired young man in front of him in shock. At first glance, the white-haired young man did not have any aura, as if he was an ordinary person without any cultivation. However, Zhuowen was no fool. How could this person be an ordinary person if he could appear by his side without making a sound? The white-haired young man looked at Zhuowen coldly and said, "Who are you? Why did you appear in Lingyun's valley?" After he finished speaking, a vast and terrifying aura surged out from the white-haired young man's body. It was as if a storm had swept out, causing Zhuowen to retreat involuntarily. Zhuowen frowned and said, "Shan Lingyun is my master!" The white-haired young man was stunned. He retracted his terrifying aura and said in disbelief, "Lingyun has taken in a disciple? Could it be that you have passed the great word incantation forest?" Zhuowen nodded and did not speak. The white-haired young man's background was unknown, and Zhuowen was wary of him. Although the white-haired young man addressed Shan Lingyun intimately, who knew if he was a friend or foe? Thinking of this, Zhuowen could not help but stand in front of Shan Lingyun and looked at the white-haired young man unkindly. When the white-haired young man saw this, he shook his head and said, "If I want to attack Lingyun, you will not be able to stop me." Seeing that Zhuowen was getting more and more nervous, the white-haired young man wanted to laugh even more. He continued, "Don't worry. Lingyun is an old acquaintance of mine. I will not disturb her when she uses the great word incantation." After he finished speaking, the white-haired young man casually sat on a rock by the side of the pool and looked at ease. Although Zhuowen was still cautious, he believed that the white-haired young man was not here to attack Shan Lingyun. After all, with the white-haired young man's strength, if he really wanted to attack, Zhuowen would not be able to stop him. Unless Zhuowen took out a supreme treasure like the Tai Emperor's seal, he might not be able to stop the white-haired young man. Of course, if the white-haired young man really wanted to attack, he would have done so long ago. Why bother talking so much nonsense with him? The white-haired young man sat down leisurely and began to size up Zhuowen. He smiled and said, "Judging from your attire, you should be an outer disciple of Hongwu Shenzhen. However, your cultivation has already reached the half-step transformation stage of the God domain. With this kind of cultivation, you've long been qualified to be promoted to an inner court disciple." Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice, "I've just broken through and haven't had the time to take the sex test. So I'm still an outer sect disciple." "Senior, you seem to be very familiar with Hongwu Shenzhen. May I know which senior you are?" Zhuowen was very direct. If this person could rush to the great speech incantation forest immediately, he must have come from Hongwu Shenzhen. He must be one of Hongwu Shenzhen's men. The white-haired young man did not answer Zhuowen's question directly. Instead, he asked in a serious tone, "The great speech incantation art is a spirit speech master's strongest forbidden art. The price to use this forbidden art is extremely high. Do you know why Lingyun suddenly wants to use this forbidden art?" Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect the white-haired young man to be so cautious. He pondered for a moment and said, "Isn't the price to use this forbidden art the energy of 10,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins? Is there another price to pay?" The white-haired young man sneered and said, "If that's the case, then this art can't be called a forbidden art. The energy consumption of this art can be said to be enormous. But this is just the foundation. The real price to use this art is the consumption of one's lifespan. Only then can it be successfully used. Moreover, it's at the cost of 90% of one's lifespan." Hearing this, Zhuowen felt a rumble in his mind. He had never thought that the price to use the great speech incantation art would be so high. For cultivators who had cultivated to his level, the most important thing was not treasures or offensive treasures, but their own lifespan. Although cultivators who had reached his level had extremely long lifespan, it was not infinite. There was always an end. If one wanted to truly obtain more lifespan, then one had to reach a higher level and a stronger cultivation. And all of these required time. To cultivators, lifespan was a priceless treasure. Nothing could compare to it. Zhuowen did not expect that Shan Lingyun would be willing to sacrifice 90% of her lifespan to use a forbidden art like the great speech incantation art for him to find Moyan Wushang. This made Zhuowen feel very guilty. If he had known that the great speech incantation art had such a painful price to pay, he would never have let Shan Lingyun use this art. With his comprehension, it would only take a few years for his great speech incantation art to reach great accomplishment. At that time, he would be able to use the great speech incantation art to find Moyan Wushang. The white-haired youth silently observed Zhuowen. Seeing that the latter's expression was uncertain, he said coldly, "I have known Lingyun for a long time. I know her very well. I know that she would not use such a forbidden art casually, unless it was someone important to her. She would not sacrifice so much. Tell me the truth. Did she use the great speech incantation art for you?" The white-haired youth looked coldly at Zhuowen and asked in an unfriendly tone. Zhuowen was silent for a moment. In the end, he nodded and said, "Master did not tell me that the great speech incantation art had such a price. If I had known, I would not have been able to get rid of Master's forbidden art." Bang! As soon as Zhua Wengang finished speaking, a terrifying aura with blazing killing intent suddenly attacked him. Zhuowen was caught off guard and was hit by the aura. With a groan, he could not help but fly backwards and smash into the rock wall behind him. His entire body was embedded in it. "It is indeed you, you be **starred. Are you trying to kill Lingyun?" The white-haired youth exuded a terrifying killing intent. He stared coldly at Zhuowen, and his tone was filled with anger and killing intent. Puff! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and struggled to get down from the rock wall. His face was pale as he stared coldly at the white-haired youth. The white-haired youth did not attack again. In his angry eyes there was a tinge of sorrow. "Do you know that Lingyun does not have much lifespan left? She might die if she uses the great speech incantation art again." The white-haired youth's expression became more serious. His shoulders trembled slightly and tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Zhuowen looked silently at the white-haired youth who was crying. The anger in his heart gradually dissipated and was replaced by confusion. What did the white-haired youth mean? Why did he say that Lingyun did not have much lifespan left? The two of them stood facing each other and fell into a long silence. Suddenly, Lingyun, who was sitting cross-legged on the shore of the pool, groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was even paler. In the sky, many small eyes gathered and surged into Shan Lingyun's glabella. Plop! Lingyun fell to the ground and coughed continuously. Chapter 3966. At this moment, Shan Lingyun slowly opened her eyes. Although she was very weak, she was still happy and said, "Disciple, I found her. I found the girl you were looking for." Gui Jing, why are you here?" The white-haired youth looked at Shan Lingyun pitifully and sighed. Lingyun, didn't you promise me that you would never use the great speech spirit art again? Why do you still use such a forbidden technique? Don't you know your own condition? Shan Lingyun curled her lips and said weakly, Gui Jing, you are so annoying. You are always a busybody. I have finally taken in a disciple. How can I reject my disciple's help? All right, let me go. I still have to tell my disciple the information of the person he is looking for. As she spoke, Shan Lingyun struggled to break free from the white-haired youth and walked towards Zhuowen. The white-haired youth sighed in his heart and did not stop Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun walked to Zhuowen with difficulty and waved at him. She revealed a victorious smile and said, Disciple, how is it? Your master is awesome, right? I found the person you are looking for. Zhuowen slowly squatted down and looked at the lowly in front of him seriously. He saw that Shan Lingyun's face was extremely pale and her small body was still trembling. It was as if she would be blown away by the wind at any time. He knew that the white-haired youth was not lying. Shan Lingyun had indeed paid a heavy price to use the great speech spirit art. Otherwise, she would not be so weak. Why, I have helped you find your little lover. Are you not happy? Shan Lingyun looked at Zhuowen's serious face and could not help but put her hands on her waist and show her displeasure. But she was too weak. Just as she put her hands on her waist, she staggered and was about to fall to the ground. Zhuowen stretched out his hand and held her. He said apologetically, Master, I really did not know that you had to pay such a heavy price to use the great speech spirit art. If I had known, I would not have let you use this forbidden technique. Shan Lingyun was stunned. She then smiled and said, I thought it was something serious. So it is just a small matter. Don't listen to Gui Jing. I am fine. This great speech spirit art is not as serious as he thinks. As she spoke, Shan Lingyun extended her small right hand and pressed her palm against Zhuowen's forehead. Disciple, I just used the Great Language Soul spell to check and found the approximate location of Moyin of Wushang. Although it's not very accurate, at least I've locked onto an area. I'll pass this information to you now. Just as Shan Lingyun finished speaking, Zhuowen sensed a stream of information flowing from Shan Lingyun's palm into the space between his eyebrows, appearing in his memories. This information showed Moyin of Wushang's approximate location. However, Zhuowen wasn't happy at all because this information was obtained through Shan Lingyun sacrificing her lifespan. This made Zhuowen's heart heavy. Disciple, why are you not happy at all? I went through a lot of trouble to get it back for you. Shan Lingyun pouted when she saw Zhuowen's serious expression. Zhuowen forced a smile, but he didn't know what to say. I'm so tired. Disciple, take a good look at the information. Master can only help you up to this point. I'm so tired. Shan Lingyun yawned loudly, then fell asleep in Zhuowen's arms. Zhuowen carried Shan Lingyun and walked into the pavilion. He gently placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. After that, Zhuowen turned to look at the white-haired youth who appeared at the door and said, Senior, can you tell me more about Master? The white-haired youth's gaze was complicated. He thought for a while, then nodded and said, Come out with me. Since you're her only disciple, you should know some of her past. The two of them left the pavilion and sat on the rattan chairs in the courtyard. The white-haired youth was silent for a long time, then slowly began to tell Xin Ying about Shan Lingyun's past. From the white-haired youth's narration, Zhuowen finally knew that the white-haired youth in front of him was the sect leader of Hongwu Shengzhen, Gui Jing. It was no wonder that when Shan Lingyun mentioned this name, Zhuowen felt that it was so familiar. As for Shan Lingyun's identity, it shocked Zhuowen. It turned out that Shan Lingyun was the illegitimate daughter of Huxley's clan leader, Lu Renjue. Shan Lingyun's master, Lu Xian, was once Huxley's strongest spiritual speaker. Her status was extremely high, and she was respected by tens of thousands of people. Originally, Shan Lingyun's birth was a family scandal of Huxley's clan leader. In order to erase this scandal, Huxley's clan leader, Lu Rinjue, threw Shan Lingyun to Shan Lingyun's master, Lu Xian, to clean up. Originally, Shan Lingyun was Lu Rinjue's daughter, so naturally her surname was Lu. However, Shan Lingyun didn't. Even her father had abandoned her, so she didn't recognize Lu Rinjue's surname. Thus, she followed her mother's surname and was named Shan Lingyun. This was to deny the fact that she was Lu Rinjue's daughter. Back then, Lu Xian didn't kill Shan Lingyun. Instead, she secretly raised her and took her in as her disciple. Lu Xian had two disciples. One of them was Shan Lingyun, and the other was Lu Huanyu. Lu Huanyu was once Huxley's #1 genius, and he was extremely talented in the spiritual speaker technique. After he found out about Shan Lingyun's background, he was very sympathetic towards Shan Lingyun. Thus, together with Lu Xian, he hid it for Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun grew up day by day. It was unknown if it was because of her special body constitution, but when she reached the age of 8, her body stopped growing. She always looked like a little girl. Although Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu tried their best to hide Shan Lingyun's background, it was still discovered in the end. The entire Huxley was alarmed. In order to protect Shan Lingyun, Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu betrayed Huxley and brought Shan Lingyun to hide from Huxley's pursuit. However, Huxley was too strong. Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu were exhausted from chasing after him. In the end, in order to protect Shan Lingyun, Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu became bait and lured away Huxley's pursuers. Shan Lingyun indeed escaped from Huxley's pursuers, but Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu's whereabouts were unknown. No one knew if they were alive or dead. Gue Jing was Lu Huanyu's best friend. She had a close relationship with Lu Huanyu. Back then, after Lu Huanyu handed Shan Lingyun to Gue Jing, he left without hesitation and never returned. Speaking of the past, Gue Jing was full of emotions. Her eyes revealed a look of reminiscence. Later on, in order to find Lu Xian and Lu Huanyu, Shan Lingyun used the spiritual speaker technique many times, but it was to no avail. As she used the spiritual speaker technique too many times, she did not have much lifespan left. She promised me that she would not use this technique again. However, I did not expect that she would use it again for you, her new disciple. She is really... Speaking of this, Gue Jing let out a long sigh. Her face was full of helplessness. On the other hand, Zhuowen was silent for a long time. He did not expect Shan Lingyun to have such a tragic past. He also did not know that Shan Lingyun had used the spiritual speaker technique many times, and her lifespan had been severely depleted. Chapter 39:67. Gue Jing looked at Zhuowen silently. His eyes were filled with sorrow. He shook his head and said, "You don't need to know about this. I don't think Lingyun wants you to know either." Zhuowen said with determination, "How much lifespan does my master have?" Seeing the determination in Zhuowen's eyes, Gue Jing was moved. He thought for a moment and said, "Before she used the great speech spiritual spell on you, she should have a few thousand years left." Zhuowen trembled. According to Gue Jing, using the great speech spiritual spell would consume 90% of one's lifespan. This meant that Shan Lingyun only had a few hundred years left. A few hundred years was just a snap of the fingers for cultivators with long lifespans. Shan Lingyun only had so little lifespan left. Zhuowen felt ashamed and sorrowful. "Senior, is there any way to save my master's lifespan?" Zhuowen suddenly asked. Gue Jing had a complicated look. He thought for a while and said, "I remember that Huxley has a supreme divine medicine that can increase a cultivator's lifespan by at least 100,000 years. If Lingyun can obtain an additional 100,000 years of lifespan, then with her talent, her cultivation level will increase steadily within 100,000 years. Her lifespan will also increase slowly as she breaks through her cultivation level. Gui Jing looked at Zhuowen and shook his head. You don't have to think about this divine medicine. You have no chance of obtaining it. After all, this is one of Huxley's most precious divine medicines. Many people in the clan don't even have the chance to use it, let alone an outsider like you. Hearing this, Zhuowen was delighted. He didn't expect Huxley to have such a heaven-defying divine medicine. It seemed like he had to go to Huxley in the future and find a chance to obtain this divine medicine. Of course, with his foundation, he couldn't snatch it. However, he could use other things to exchange for it or use other methods. After all, Shan Lingyun still had a few hundred years. In these few hundred years, Zhuowen's cultivation might improve further. By then, even Huxley might not be his match. Looking at the expression on Zhuowen's face, Gui Jing could also guess what Zhuowen was thinking. She couldn't help but shake her head. She secretly thought that Zhuowen was too naive. Could it be that he really had designs on the boundless longevity divine medicine? For the next period of time, Zhuowen stayed in the valley. As Shan Lingyun was in a coma, Zhuowen had to stay behind to take care of her. On the third day, the white-haired young man left the valley because of what happened in Shenzhen. After interacting with Gui Jing for so many days, Zhuowen finally found out about her identity. Gui Jing was actually the sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen. She had a high position and was considered one of the top experts even in the Liyuan main region. However, Zhuowen wasn't too surprised. The fact that Gui Jing could appear by his side without anyone noticing had already proved that she was stronger than Pei Shanglong. Pei Shanglong was one of the 10 elders of Hongwu Shenzhen. Her position was extremely high and was only below the sect leader. If someone was stronger than Pei Shanglong and belonged to Hongwu Shenzhen, it could only be the sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen. While taking care of Shan Lingyun, Zhuowen had been studying the information that Shan Lingyun had sent to him. The information that Shan Lingyun gave him was a map. He only knew that the map was a mountain called the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. As for which region of the 100 domains this mountain was in, Zhuowen didn't know. However, he knew that since he knew the exact location, it wouldn't be that difficult to find out the exact location of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. At least, it was much better than searching for a needle in a haystack by Zhuowen. After a month, Shan Lingyun finally woke up. Shan Lingyun opened her eyes and immediately saw Zhuowen, who was sitting by the bed and cultivating. Her eyes were filled with gentleness, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Zhuowen seemed to have felt something and slowly opened his eyes. When he realized that Shan Lingyun had woken up, he was very happy. "Disciple, how long have I been unconscious?" Shan Lingyun slowly propped herself up and looked at Zhuowen as she asked. Zhuowen helped Shan Lingyun up and leaned her petite body against the side of the bed. He said, "A month. I've been unconscious for so long. I still underestimated the power of the big words, spirit art. Luckily, I'm fine now." Shan Lingyun stretched and looked at Zhuowen mischievously. She said, "Disciple, are you very happy now? I've helped you find the location of your little lover." Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He looked deeply at Shan Lingyun and felt bitter in his heart. Even until now, Shan Lingyun hadn't told him the huge price to pay for the big word spirit art. Zhuowen knew that Shan Lingyun didn't want him to worry and deliberately didn't mention this matter. "Thank you, master. If not for you, I don't know how to find Wushang. However, I only know the exact location now. As for which region it is in, I still don't know." Zhuowen said. Shan Lingyun said, "I remember that in Hongwu Shenzhen's Hall of Records, there's a complete map of the 100 outer regions. However, this map is extremely precious and is in the depths of the Hall of Records. Ordinary disciples don't have the right to come in contact with it." Zhuowen looked at Shan Lingyun and wasn't disappointed. Instead, he smiled and said, "Since Master deliberately mentioned this Hall of Records, I think Master should have a way to let me look at this map." Shan Lingyun rolled her eyes at Zhuowen and said, "I wanted to give you a suspense, but you actually exposed me directly. As a master, I don't have any dignity at all." Zhuowen was a little amused and pretended not to know. I'm only an outer sect disciple. I don't have the right to enter the depths of the Hall of Records. What should I do? Master, help me. Shan Lingyun rolled her eyes at Zhuowen again and snorted. Hypocrite! Although Shan Lingyun said this, she still revealed a proud smile and said, Master is very resourceful. It's naturally no problem for me to help you enter the depths of the Hall of Records. As she spoke, Shan Lingyun took out a token and passed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen took the token and realized that the token was overflowing with light. Its surface was pale gold, and the word Shan was engraved on the front of the token. This token is my identity token. With this token, you can enter and exit all the forbidden areas in Honggu Shenzhen as you wish. No one will dare to stop you. Shan Lingyun said proudly. Zhuowen looked at the token in his hand and was extremely excited. According to what Shan Lingyun said, if he held this token and entered the dungeon where Hong Xinwu was imprisoned, wouldn't he be able to enter without any obstructions? There was no doubt that this token was of great significance to him. Chapter 3968. Zhuowen stayed in the valley for a few more days until he was sure that Shan Lingyun was fine. Only then did he leave the valley. When he returned to Honggu Shenzhen, Ziling and Li Xinbing came to him excitedly. Elder Pei has been looking for me. He wants to promote me to an inner disciple. Zhuowen looked at the two girls in surprise. Ziling and Li Xinbing brought him news that Pei Shanglong was looking for him again and wanted to promote him to an inner disciple. He wanted him to participate in the upcoming 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. Brother Daowin, you probably don't know yet. You're now a big celebrity in the sect. Everyone knows who you are. Ziling said excitedly. Zhuowen looked surprised and said, Why do you say that? More than a month ago, you killed the #1 inner disciple of Qingluan Shenzhen, Mo Hongxian, in one move. This matter is widely known in the sect. Mo Hongxian defeated all the inner disciples of Honggu Shenzhen in our sect. He was invincible and made all the disciples in the sect unhappy. Qingluan Shenzhen was also extremely arrogant and thought that Honggu Shenzhen was invincible. But you killed Mo Hongxian in one move. It can be said that you helped many disciples vent their anger. Now you're famous in the sect. Li Xinbing said with a smile. Zhuowen suddenly understood. So it was because of this matter. No wonder Pei Shanglong looked for him and wanted him to participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. He wanted him to win glory for Honggu Shenzhen in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was not interested in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition and being an inner disciple. The reason why he wanted to join Honggu Shenzhen was not to become a high-ranking member of Honggu Shenzhen, but to save Hong Xinwu. Once he saved Hong Xinwu, he would immediately leave the Hong martial sacred sect. He would not have any lingering feelings. Junior sisters, did Pei Shanglong ask you two to come and persuade me? Zhuowen asked. Li Xinbing and Ziling looked at each other. They didn't see any excitement in Zhuowen's eyes. Could it be that Zhuowen wasn't happy at all about being promoted to an inner disciple? We are only outer sect disciples. How could we possibly come into contact with Elder Pei? Elder Pei was the one who spread the word. We've heard the news and are here to inform you. I think Elder Pei will know about your return very soon. Ziling said. Zhuowen shook his head. I'm not the least bit interested in the inner disciples and the 4 Shenzhen martial competition. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Elder Pei. After saying that, Zhuowen greeted the two girls and went straight to the ancient records hall. Since he had obtained Shan Lingyun's identity token, the ancient records hall no longer had any restrictions on him. He couldn't wait to go to the ancient records hall to check out the map of the 100 territories. When he arrived at the entrance of the ancient records hall, 2 young cultivators suddenly blocked his way. What's the matter? Zhuowen looked at their attire and discovered that they were both inner sect disciples. Junior brother, is your name Dao Wen? A tall, thin young man looked at Zhuo with bright eyes. Zhuo smiled and said, "Did Elder Pei send you guys here?" "Yes. It seems that you are junior brother Dao Wen. More than a month ago, junior brother Dao Wen's magnificent feat at the entrance of the sect has spread throughout the outer and inner sect," the tall, thin young man said with admiration. The other young man, who was shorter, said, "Elder Pei is fond of talents. He thinks that with junior brother's talent and strength, it is a waste of your talent to stay in the outer sect. Therefore, he specially sent us here to let junior brother join the inner sect. He has already prepared the inner sect identity token and clothes for you." Zhuo shook his head and said, "Senior brothers, have you finished talking? If so, please let me pass. I still have to go into the ancient records hall to read some information." The two young men's faces stiffened. They didn't expect Zhuo to be so calm. Wasn't it a good thing to become an inner sect disciple and be valued by Elder Pei? "Junior brother Dao Wen, you may not know Elder Pei's identity. He is one of the 10 elders of the Hongwu Shenzhen Hall. His position is only below the sect leader. He is a real big shot in our sect," the tall, thin young man emphasized. Zhuo couldn't help but shake his head. He ignored the two young men and stepped into the ancient records hall directly. As he had Shan Lingyun's identity token, he entered the ancient records hall very smoothly. Moreover, the disciples guarding the door looked at him with great surprise. After all, Shan Lingyun's identity token was extremely precious. If he wasn't close to Shan Lingyun, he wouldn't have such an identity token. The two young men were stunned when they saw Zhuo Wen's back as he entered the main hall. They really didn't expect that there would be such a stubborn guy in this world. They had already emphasized Pei Shanglong's strength and extraordinariness. But this guy wasn't moved at all. "Let's go back and report to the elder," the shorter young man said. The tall, thin young man sighed. He knew that the two of them had failed to contact Zhuo this time. The ancient records hall was extremely large and could be described as spacious. There were huge bookshelves that were dozens of feet high. Every bookshelf was filled with ancient records, including divine powers, secret skills, alchemy books, array books, and various other ancient records. Moreover, as one went deeper into the ancient records hall, the levels of the various ancient records were also higher. It could be said that the collection of ancient records was quite abundant and immeasurable. Zhuowen's eyes were bright. His alchemy skills and array Dao hadn't improved for a long time. They were basically still at heaven-breaking level 4. In the ancient records hall, Zhuo saw many alchemy books and array books that were above heaven-breaking level 4. He even saw heaven-breaking level 8 array books and alchemy books. Alchemy books and array books of this level were extremely precious in the outside world. Many cultivators would fight over them. However, they existed in Hongwu Shenzhen. It could be seen how deep Hongwu Shenzhen's foundation was. After secretly memorizing the alchemy books and array books that he fancied, Zhuo entered the deepest part of the ancient records hall. He planned to take a look at the ancient record that recorded the map of the 100 territories outside the world. In the end, Zhuo found the ancient record of the map at the top of the largest bookshelf in the deepest part of the ancient records hall. This ancient record was very thick. The entire book occupied a row of the bookshelf. Zhuo gently took down the ancient record and slowly opened the first page. Suddenly, the first page surged with rich divine light. In this divine light, there was a lot of complicated information. This information was constantly outlined and intertwined, finally forming a map. Chapter 3969. It had to be said that the territory of the 100 Outer Realms was indeed vast and boundless. Zhuo Wen's reading speed could be considered extremely fast, but he had only flipped through 1/5 of it after 3 whole days. There was still 4/5 of the map that he hadn't seen. However, Zhuo was very patient. He carefully examined the contents of the map. While Zhuo was seriously reading the map in the ancient records hall, Pei Shanglong couldn't wait any longer. Seeing that the 4th Shenzhen martial competition was about to begin, Pei Shanglong finally came to find Zhuo in person. After Pei Shanglong entered the Hall of Records, he caused a stir. Many of the disciples who were looking through the records in the Hall of Records looked at Pei Shanglong with reverence. They were puzzled in their hearts as to why an elder of the 10 halls like Pei Shanglong would need to enter the Hall of Records to look through the records personally. However, when everyone in the hall saw Pei Shanglong walk straight to Zhuo in the depths of the hall, there was an uproar. Although they didn't know Zhuo, he had attracted the attention of most cultivators in the past 3 days. This was because when this guy entered the ancient records hall, he didn't look at divine abilities or secret techniques. Instead, he focused on reading the map of the 100 outer realms. This behavior was extremely strange in the eyes of most disciples. This was why Zhuo was noticed by them. Now, when they saw Pei Shanglong take the initiative to walk toward Zhuo, they were all guessing whether Zhuo had offended Pei Shanglong or not. There were even some who were gloating in their hearts, secretly thinking that Zhuo was going to be unlucky. However, when everyone saw Pei Shanglong walk to Zhuo's side, he didn't reveal a stern expression as they expected. Instead, he silently stood beside Zhuo and didn't disturb him. It was as if he was waiting for Zhuo to finish reading the map. Everyone was stunned. Everyone could see that Pei Shanglong did not seem to be looking for trouble with Zhuo. Instead, he was waiting for the latter to finish watching. This made many disciples wonder just what kind of identity Zhuo had to make Pei Shanglong, an elder of the 10 halls, be willing to wait for him and not dare to disturb him. Zhuo seemed to have sensed something. He slowly turned his head and looked at Pei Shanglong, who was standing beside him. Pei Shanglong stared at Zhuo and revealed a faint smile as he said, "You're called Daowin, right? Do you mind if I sit beside you?" Although Pei Shanglong was asking for Zhuo's opinion, he did not wait for Zhuo's reply and sat down. "May I know why Elder Pei is looking for me?" Zhuo silently looked at the old man in front of him. Of course, he knew why the old man was looking for him. Elder Pei did not mind Zhuo asking the obvious. Instead, he said with a smile, "Daowin, your strength is very strong and your talent is also very good. I want to take you in as my last disciple." Finished talking, Elder Pei looked at Zhuo with a smile. He was an elder of the 10 halls. His status was honorable and his status was lofty. God knows how many people wanted to break their heads to become his last disciple, but failed. In Pei Shanglong's view, he personally invited Zhuo to become his last disciple. The latter would definitely be overwhelmed by the favor and accept it. But what surprised him was that Zhuo just glanced at him indifferently and said, "Elder Pei, I appreciate your good intentions. I feel that my current position is very good. I don't want to torment myself." Pei Shanglong's brows furrowed slightly. He also did not expect that Zhuo would actually refuse his invitation. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. Many disciples begged for it, but could not get it. "Daowin, are you sure you don't want to consider it more?" Pei Shanglong asked somewhat unwillingly. Zhuo shook his head and did not answer anymore. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at the map of the 100 outer regions in his hand. Pei Shanglong's eyes revealed a trace of annoyance. This Zhuo was also seriously a little too rude, right? Was this ignoring him? However, this place was the records hall after all. He naturally did not dare to act rashly without careful consideration. Pei Shanglong endured his rage and said in a solemn voice, "Daowin, the 4th Shenzhen martial competition is also about to start. When the time comes, you replace the outer court disciples and participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial competition this time." Pei Shanglong's tone this time could not be said to be good. It was even somewhat unkind, completely a commanding tone. Not interested. Zhuo did not even raise his head as he opened his mouth and said indifferently. Pei Shanglong was really seething with anger. This bastard, rejecting his good intentions time and time again. Did he really think that his temper was so good? Humph. Dao Win, you're really something. You take care of yourself. Pei Shanglong snorted coldly, got up, and left the records hall. Many of the onlooking disciples in the hall revealed expressions of disbelief, although they were unable to clearly hear the conversation between Zhuowen and Pei Shanglong. From the conversation between Pei Shanglong and Zhuowen did not even raise his head, and in the end, Pei Shanglong even left the records hall with an ugly expression. They could completely guess the specific conversation between the two. Without a doubt, Zhuowen, this fellow who wore outer court disciples' clothes, was actually arrogant to such an extent. An existence of Pei Shanglong's level personally came to find him, but this fellow actually ignored him. This fellow wanted to ascend to the heavens. Many people secretly shook their heads in their hearts. They felt that Zhuowen simply did not know what was good for him. He actually offended Pei Shanglong. Wasn't this courting death? Zhuowen naturally would not care about the thoughts of these bystanders. He still silently looked at the map in his hand, under Zhuowen's tireless search. Finally, on the 10th day, he found the map of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. What surprised Zhuowen was that the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain was actually in the Nuwa realm. Moreover, it was an extremely mysterious forbidden area in the Nuwa realm. It's actually in the Nuwa realm. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He was not unfamiliar with the Nuwa realm because the Nuwa clan was the ruler of the Nuwa realm. When Moyen Wushang was in the lower realm, becoming a desireless person was actually indirectly related to the Nuwa clan. Later, the experts of the Nuwa clan even wanted to take Moyen Wushang away. Zhuowen did not expect that the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain was actually in the Nuwa realm. Zhuowen was a little worried that if Moyen Wushang's whereabouts were exposed, he was afraid that he would be discovered by the Nuwa clan and be taken away. However, Zhuowen also thought that the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires that Moyen Wushang had obtained was extremely extraordinary. The place of inheritance should not be so simple. The chances of Moyen Wushang being taken away by the Nuwa clan was not very high. After the matters here are settled, I will go to the Nuwa realm. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. In the Hushu realm, he still had many things to deal with. In addition, his strength was not enough. Therefore, Zhuowen planned to completely settle the matters here before going to the Nuwa realm. Chapter 3970. In the following period of time, Zhuowen was immersed in reading all sorts of books in the book hall, especially those books on alchemy and formations that he valued. He'd practically read through all of them. His perception was stronger than before, so no matter how complicated the books in the Hall of Records were, he could comprehend them in a short period of time. In addition, he also looked at all kinds of divine abilities and integrated them into the 3 grand mist divine abilities that he created, causing the power of his 3 divine abilities to skyrocket. While Zhuowen was immersed in the Hall of Records, the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition was about to begin. The Hanggu Shenzhen was bustling with noise and excitement. It was said that among the 10 elders of the Shenzhen Hall, there were a total of 8 elders. They brought along all the core disciples, as well as the elites of the inner and outer disciples. It could be said that the Hanggu Shenzhen Hall's team lineup was extremely luxurious. Pei Shanglong was one of the team leaders. He stood in front of the team and talked to Elder Gu Yunfei absent-mindedly. Gu Yunfei saw that Pei Shanglong was absent-minded and asked curiously, "Elder Pei, what's wrong with you? Why are you so absent-minded? Is there something on your mind?" Pei Shanglong came back to his senses and smiled bitterly. "I was just thinking about a little guy." "Oh, who is it?" Gu Yunfei's interest was immediately piqued. A little guy that Pei Shanglong was so concerned about had piqued his interest. Pei Shanglong thought about it and told Gu Yunfei about Zhuowen. "So, it's that Dao Win. This little guy has been very popular in the sect recently. He is indeed extraordinary for an outer disciple to be able to kill Mo Hongxian." Gu Yunfei sneered and continued, "It's just that this little guy is too arrogant. Brother Pei, you personally invited him, and he actually dared to reject you. Where did his arrogance and confidence come from? Pei Shanglong smiled bitterly. Since Zhuowen had rejected him, he couldn't force him to participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. Moreover, this little guy had rejected his offer to be his last disciple. This was a huge blow to Pei Shanglong. Brother Pei, tell me, where is this little guy now? I'll go find him. I want to see if he won't even give me face. Gu Yunfei snorted coldly. Pei Shanglong frowned slightly. He wanted to reject Gu Yunfei, but Gu Yunfei insisted on going. He had no choice but to agree to bring him to the Hall of Records to find Zhuowen. After all, there were still a few hours of Shenzhen martial arts competition. The two of them easily found a person in the depths of the Hall of Records who was tirelessly flipping through an esoteric formation book. Gu Yunfei walked directly towards Zhuowen. His footsteps were very loud. He arrived beside Zhuowen and looked down at him. Seeing that Zhuowen was flipping through the formation book, he sneered and said, "You're an outer court disciple. Why are you reading a mess of formation books instead of cultivating?" Zhuowen didn't even raise his head and said, "What does what I'm reading have to do with you?" Gu Yunfei was startled. It was the first time he was contradicted by a disciple like this. His expression instantly became ugly. "What did you just say? Do you dare to say it again?" Gu Yunfei said in an unfriendly tone, "Get lost. Don't disturb me from reading." Zhuowen still didn't turn his head and shouted coldly. Gu Yunfei was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. This bastard actually dared to tell him to scram. He was an elder of the 10 halls and had a noble status. Even the other elders of the 10 halls had to be polite to him. Who had ever told him to scram? A terrifying killing intent surged out of Gu Yunfei's body. It was like a vast and terrifying aura that rolled out and pressured Zhuowen. Zhuowen slowly raised his head and looked coldly at Gu Yunfei. He said, "I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me? Don't tell me you want to fight in the Hall of Records." The anger in Gu Yunfei's eyes was like an erupting volcano. He was almost unable to restrain his anger. He said coldly, "Bastard, don't you know who I am? Elder Gu Yunfei of the Divine Goose Hall." "How could I not know?" Zhuowen sneered. How could he not know this Gu Yunfei? This was the guy who had come to the Wukong State region to capture Hongshu. "Since you know that I'm an elder of the 10th Hall, how dare you speak to me in such a tone?" Gu Yunfei frowned and said strangely, "So what if you're an elder of the 10th Hall? You can casually use your aura to pressure a nameless outer court disciple like me? If so, then you're really a promising elder. You've made the other elders of the 10th Hall proud." Zhuowen said coldly. Gu Yunfei was furious. This Zhuowen really didn't know how to talk at all. What kind of nonsense was he talking about? Fortunately, Pei Shanglong saw that the atmosphere between the two was not good. He quickly said, "Daowin, we're here to sincerely invite you to participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. If you can participate, you'll definitely amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, and your name will shake the 4 sections. This is a good opportunity." Zhuowen looked at Pei Shanglong. His expression eased a little. He shook his head and said, "Elder Pei, I appreciate your kindness. I don't want to participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. I just want to quietly browse through the books here. Please leave." Hearing this, Pei Shanglong was depressed. He had already invited Zhuowen twice, but this guy was stubborn and didn't want to participate in the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition. He knew that his persuasion was useless. He sighed and pulled the flustered and exasperated Gu Yunfei out of the Hall of Records. Zhuowen silently looked at Gu Yunfei's back. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If he had the chance, he would definitely make Gu Yunfei pay the price. After walking out of the hall, Gu Yunfei calmed down and said with a frown, "Brother Pei, don't you feel that this guy's attitude towards me is a little tit for tat? I've never seen this guy before." Pei Shanglong nodded. He also felt that Zhuowen's attitude towards Gu Yunfei was a little too bad. However, his attitude towards him was obviously much better. He didn't know why it was like this. Gu Yunfei was even more baffled. However, he didn't think too much about it. He only thought that there was something wrong with this Zhuowen. Several hours later, Zhuowen put down the formation book in his hand. He stretched lazily, and a sharp light burst out of his eyes. After this period of reading, he had practically read all the formation books and alchemy books in the Hall of Records once. He had also flipped through a large number of mystical powers. Zhuowen's alchemy and formation Dao had improved tremendously. He was confident that he could improve his formation Dao and alchemy Dao to the level of the heaven-crushing 8 transformation in a short period of time. However, these all required practice. For example, if he wanted to improve his alchemy Dao, he would have to refine a divine pill of the corresponding level. For formation Dao, he would have to set up formations of the corresponding level. The teams of the 4th Shenzhen Martial Arts Competition are probably about to leave. Zhuowen murmured to himself. He stood up and left the Hall of Records. Chapter 3971. In the next half a month, Zhuowen basically cycled through the 2 steps of collecting materials for setting up the array and setting up the array. His array skills had already reached the 4th level of the heaven-breaking realm. In this half a month, he was constantly trying to set up high-level arrays. One after another, they set up 3 kinds of high-level formations of heaven-breaking Tier 5, Tier 6, and Tier 7. The reason why he improved so quickly, other than his terrifying perception, was because he had read many array books in the Hall of Records. Or else, his array skills wouldn't have improved so quickly. Zhuowen originally wanted to try to set up a heaven-breaking Step 8 Great Array, but heaven-breaking Step 8 Great Array was really too complicated. Even with Zhuowen's amazing perception, it wasn't that easy to successfully set it up in a short time. Zhuowen had already been delayed for half a month. He didn't want to waste any more time. He wanted to go save Hong Xinwu immediately. Although the martial arts competition of the 4 sacred sects would be held for 20 days and only half a month had passed, if there were any unforeseen circumstances and the Hong martial sacred sects team returned early, wouldn't Zhuowen's hard-earned opportunity be ruined? Hong Xinwu was locked up in the Hall of Execution. The Hall of Execution was one of the 10 halls. The elder of the Hall of Execution was Sha Wuji. Because Sha Wuji was in charge of the law enforcement of the house, his position was extremely important. Therefore, he didn't follow the team to the 4th Shenzhen competition. Sha Wuji was one of the only 2 elders who guarded Hong Wu Shenzhen. Zhuowen summoned his Yin spirit. A pitch-black shadow appeared before Zhuowen. Under the control of Zhuowen's mind, the Yin spirit silently transformed into a black shadow and left the outer sect's mountain peak. Sha Wuji was, after all, one of the 10 elders. He was a real powerhouse in the demonic transformation realm. His capabilities were extremely terrifying. Even though Zhuowen had enough trump cards, he was still wary of him and didn't want to fight him head-on. Therefore, he decided to let the Yin spirit explore the path first. The Hall of Punishment was heavily guarded. Outside the hall, there were 3 layers of guards patrolling. All of them wore heavy armor and emitted powerful auras. They were like wild beasts, powerful and unparalleled. The Yin deity was like a black shadow, silently passing through the 3 layers of guards and smoothly entering the Hall of Punishment. The Evil Punisher Hall was extremely spacious, but there was not a single person in sight. It was terrifyingly quiet. Zhuowen did not see any maidservants or servants in the Fiend Punishment Hall. In fact, he did not even see Sha Wuji. The Yin deity entered the dungeon in the depths of the Hall of Punishment. Back then, when Zhuowen controlled the Yin god, he had turned the entire Hall of Punishment upside down. He was already familiar with the structure and terrain of the Hall of Punishment. Therefore, it was not difficult for him to enter the dungeon hidden in the Hall of Punishment. The moment Yin Xin entered the dungeon, he could not help but shiver. He could actually feel the extremely dense, baleful qi coming from the dungeon. This baleful qi was too terrifying. It was as if it was real. Inside the dungeon, it formed a storm of baleful qi. It was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen was unsure. He remembered that the last time he entered the dungeon, he did not feel any baleful qi. Why was there such a terrifying, baleful qi in the dungeon this time? Although he was puzzled, Zhuowen still controlled the Yin deity to enter the dungeon. Very quickly, he arrived at the dungeon where Hong Shenwu was locked up. When he saw that Hong Shenwu was still locked up inside, he sighed in relief. At the same time, he realized that the deeper he went into the dungeon, the thicker the baleful qi became. It was as if this baleful qi was coming from the deepest part of the dungeon. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment. He did not immediately rescue Hong Shenwu. Although his Yin deity was powerful enough to undo the bindings on Hong Shenwu, he was not powerful enough. Even if he did undo the bindings on Hong Shenwu, he would not be able to take Hong Shenwu away. He planned to find the source of this baleful qi before making any plans. The Yin deity did not make a sound. His speed was not fast as he slowly moved towards the depths of the dungeon. Very quickly, he arrived at the deepest part of the dungeon. He saw that the deepest part of the dungeon was a rather spacious open space. From the broken solid railings in front of the open space, it could be seen that this open space should have been an extremely large dungeon. At this moment, in the middle of the open space, there was a stalwart man wearing blood-red armor. This man had a square face with thick eyebrows. His face was covered with sinister scars, announcing that this person had once been an extraordinary person. The man sat upright in the open space, his chest rising and falling. His entire body was enveloped in a thick blood qi. A terrifying, baleful qi spread out with every breath he took. It was like a flood rolling out. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He knew that the source of the baleful qi in the dungeon was this middle-aged man in front of him. From the way the middle-aged man sat, it could be seen that this person should be cultivating some extremely evil and terrifying divine ability. "Sha Wuji," Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. This person's qi was too vast. It was not inferior to Gu Yunfei or Pei Shanglong. He should also be a demonic transformation expert. Since he was sitting in the depths of the dungeon, it could only be the elder of the Hall of Punishment, Sha Wuji. All of a sudden, Sha Wuji opened his eyes, which shone with a dense, blood-red light. He looked puzzled. He turned his head to look at the Yin deity. It was as if he was looking at something, but also as if he was puzzled that there was nothing there. Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat. This Sha Wuji's divine sense was extremely sharp. He could actually sense his Yin deity. Thinking of this, Zhuowen hurriedly controlled his Yin deity to leave the place. His speed was extremely fast and silent. After the Yin deity left, the suspicion in Sha Wuji's eyes grew even stronger. His terrifying divine sense swept towards the place where Zhuowen had been. After scanning for a long time, he did not sense any qi. Only then did Sha Wuji mutter to himself, "Could it be that I'm hallucinating? Why does it feel like someone is watching me from here?" Sha Wuji's tyrannical divine sense swept through the entire dungeon and even the Hall of Punishment. However, he did not find anything. Only then did he give up. "It must be my hallucination." After Sha Wuji finished speaking, he no longer cared about the feeling he had just felt. He closed his eyes again. His body erupted with an even thicker blood qi. It swirled around his body and looked extremely terrifying. The evil qi in the dungeon also became extremely terrifying. After the Yin deity left the dungeon, he did not leave the Hall of Punishment. Although he had felt Sha Wuji's divine sense, he was very confident. The Yin deity's ability to conceal himself could be said to be unparalleled. Sha Wuji's divine sense would not be able to detect him. The reason why Sha Wuji could sense him just now was because his divine sense was naturally sharp. It was not because of his divine sense. Chapter 3972. After setting up the array at the entrance of the dungeon, Zhuowen controlled his own spirit to go to the entrance of the Hall of Punishment and set up an equally powerful array. After doing all this, Zhuowen still felt that it was not safe enough, so he set up a heaven-breaking seventh-order array 1,000 meters away from the Hall of Punishment. In addition, he also set up a temporary teleportation array inside and outside the Hanggu Shengzhen. After everything was ready, Zhuowen controlled his own spirit to return to the outer sect peak. When the own spirit entered Zhuowen's body, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes, which shone with an unbearable light. He slowly stood up, opened the restriction at the entrance of the cave, and left the outer sect peak, heading straight for the Hall of Punishment. When he neared the Hall of Punishment, his own spirit separated from his body and silently entered the dungeon of the Hall of Punishment. Zhuowen, on the other hand, summoned the Sun God and strode towards the group of patrols outside the evil punishment hall. The patrols on the third floor, who were originally on guard outside, immediately noticed the Sun Spirit's doppelganger. The Sun Spirit's appearance had been changed by Zhuowen to that of a middle-aged man. At this moment, he strode toward the Hall of Punishment with an imposing manner. It was obvious that he did not come with good intentions. "Who are you? Stop right now. This is the Hall of Punishment. It's not a place for outsiders to enter." One of the patrols immediately noticed the Sun Spirit and couldn't help but shout. More than a dozen patrols immediately surrounded the Sun Spirit. The Sun Spirit's face was expressionless. He didn't care about these cultivators' obstruction at all. He struck out with his palm. Instantly, a terrifying palm force surged forward like a monstrous tsunami, drowning these cultivators. Bang! 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 The Sun Spirit's strength was extremely powerful, especially after Zhuowen's cultivation reached the peak of the yin-yang change. The Sun Spirit's combat strength had become even more terrifying, comparable to an ordinary god domain change expert. Although these patrols were elites of the Hall of Punishment, they were still some distance away from the god domain change. Naturally, they were not young spirits. They were God's opponents. The surging palm force was like a tidal wave, wreaking havoc among these cultivators. Instantly, the patrols were overturned by the terrifying palm force and couldn't help but retreat. "Enemy attack! Enemy attack!" quickly informed the elders. After the dozen or so cultivators were repelled, they immediately began to send out messages to inform the other two patrol teams. They also sent the message to limitless slaughter in the depths of the dungeon. Suddenly, the cultivators from the other two patrol teams gathered like locusts, and a series of terrifying magical powers greeted the Sun God. The physical body of the Yang God was too terrifying, and his movements were like that of a ghost. Most of these magical powers were dodged by him, and a small number of them landed on his body, but they did not cause him any harm. The Sun Spirit was like a hungry wolf that had entered a flock of sheep. Wherever it passed, a cultivator would be seriously injured or even die. While the Sun God was wreaking havoc outside the Hall of Punishment, Infinite Slaughter, who had been cultivating in the depths of the dungeon, suddenly opened his eyes. Scarlet light burst out from his eyes. "How dare you cause trouble in the evil punishment hall? You're courting death." Sha Wuji coldly snorted, his murderous aura surging. He suddenly stood up and strode out of the dungeon. The baleful aura on his body was too dense. With every step he took, a terrifying baleful aura surged. This baleful aura was like sticky mucus, constantly surging in the air. In the dungeon, many prisoners who were imprisoned hid in a corner and trembled when they felt the terrifying baleful aura on Sha Wuji's body. They didn't even dare to raise their heads to look at Sha Wuji. There was only one person, and that was Hong Shenwu. He suddenly raised his head and glared at Sha Wuji, his eyes overflowing with hatred. Ever since he had been imprisoned here, he had been tortured day and night. Sha Wuji had done everything he could to get him to tell him the cultivation method of the heaven and earth Howren scripture. Unfortunately, Hong Shenwu was very stubborn and didn't say a single word. He even tried to commit suicide several times, but he was stopped by Xiao Wuji. It could be said that Hong Xinwu completely hated Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji naturally felt Hong Xinwu's hateful gaze, but he didn't even look at Hong Xinwu. Instead, when he passed by Hong Xinwu's prison, he waved his sleeve and a baleful aura formed a whip, fiercely whipping Hong Xinwu's face. Instantly, a very long wound appeared on Hong Xinwu's face, extending from his forehead to his chin. Blood dripped from it. Wait until this lord takes care of that prancing monkey outside. Then I'll take care of you. Hong Xinwu, this lord's patience is limited. If you're still stubborn, then perhaps I'll have to forcefully use a soul-searching technique. After Xiao Wuji left, he left behind these cold words. When Xiao Wuji arrived at the entrance of the dungeon, he felt that something was wrong, but he didn't have time to think. The heaven-shattering 7 steps formation that Zhuowen had set up here was immediately activated. A terrifying formation energy erupted, completely submerging Xiao Wuji. Bastard, who set up this formation here? Xiao Wuji was furious, but he had no choice but to continuously mobilize all the strength in his body to resist the power of the formation. Not long after, Xiao Wuji broke the heaven-shattering 7 steps formation at the entrance of the dungeon. Although he wasn't seriously injured, he was still in a sorry state. Xiao Wuji's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He knew that this formation must have been set up by that bastard outside. He must tear that bastard apart. When Xiao Wuji arrived at the entrance of the evil Punisher Hall, he saw the sun god displaying his might not far away. The 3 patrols that were originally guarding the evil Punisher Hall were almost completely defeated. Xiao Wuji was furious. He took a step forward and charged towards the sun god. The sun god didn't even look at Xiao Wuji. He immediately used his movement technique and fled out of the evil Punisher Hall. Bastard, you want to run after causing trouble? It won't be that easy. Xiao Wuji sneered. He didn't think too much and chased after him. However, the moment Xiao Wuji rushed out of the evil Punisher Hall, he immediately felt that something was wrong. A grand wave of formation energy spread out and instantly swept him in. Damned guy, he even set up a formation here. Xiao Wuji roared angrily. Even his lungs were about to explode. With great difficulty, Xiao Wuji managed to escape the formation. The sun god had already gone far away, but Xiao Wuji had already lost his mind. He didn't think that this was unreasonable. Like a beast that had lost its mind, he chased after the sun god. At the same time, a black shadow quietly entered the dungeon and smoothly arrived at Hong Xinwu's prison. At this moment, Hong Xinwu seemed to have sensed something. He discovered that the shackles on his body had been removed. Then, a black shadow appeared in front of him. Sect Master, it's me. Zhuowen's voice came from the black shadow. Dawen, it's you? How did you sneak into Hong Wu Shengzhen? Hong Xinwu found it unbelievable as he looked at the black shadow in front of him in surprise. It's a long story. Sect Master, come with me out of the dungeon first. Yin Xin said in a deep voice. Chapter 3973. Not long after, the Yin god brought Hong Xinwu to the entrance of the evil Punisher Hall. At this moment, the evil Punisher Hall was already empty. All of the guards were attracted by the sun god and were chasing after him. Zhuowen, who was originally hiding outside the evil Punisher Hall, quickly arrived at the entrance. The Yin god turned into a black shadow and merged into Zhuowen's body. When Hong Xinwu saw Zhuowen's true body, his eyes revealed excitement. When he first saw the Yin god, he was still rather puzzled. But now he was no longer puzzled. The person who saved him this time was Zhuowen. Dawen, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to come and save me so rashly. Hong Wu Shengzhen is too powerful. Hong Xinwu said worriedly. Zhuowen smiled and said, during this period of time, it just so happens that the 4 Shengzhen martial arts competition is taking place. Most of the upper echelons of Shengzhen have already left. Hearing this, Hong Xinwu revealed a look of understanding. No wonder Zhuowen had chosen this time to save him. This was indeed the best time to save him. Following that, Zhuowen brought Hong Xinwu to the temporary teleportation array that had been set up earlier. Seeing that Zhuowen had not activated the temporary teleportation array, Hong Xinwu could not help but ask, "Sect Master, don't worry. I'm waiting for my other clone to come and meet up with me. As long as my clone arrives, I'll immediately activate this teleportation array." Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Hong Xinwu nodded. He was not a fool. He naturally knew that the commotion outside the evil Punisher Hall must have been caused by someone causing trouble and attracting the attention of Xiao Wuji. And this person was clearly the clone that Zhuowen spoke of. It didn't take long for a golden figure to shoot over from a distance, like a falling sun. Hong Xinwu looked over and discovered that this figure was exactly the same as Zhuowen. However, it was the image of a middle-aged man. It was obvious that he had disguised himself. This figure was the sun god. However, at this moment, the sun god's condition was not good. Dense cracks appeared all over his body, and from these cracks, drops of incomparably bright golden blood flowed out. At the same time, Xiao Wuji, who was behind the young god, was following closely with bloodshot eyes. It seemed that he would not stop until he destroyed the young god. Soon, the sun spirit landed beside Zhuowen and turned into a golden light that merged into his body. Xiao Wuji immediately noticed Zhuowen, especially after seeing Zhuowen's outer disciple robe. He was stunned at first, then became furious and roared, "Bastard, so all of this was your doing! Die for me!" The moment he saw Zhuowen, he understood that all of this was orchestrated by Zhuowen. Without even thinking, he formed a palm with his right hand and suddenly blasted it out. Instantly, a terrifying murderous aura surged out like a solid liquid and attacked Zhuowen. Limitless Killer's right palm was like a terrifying mountain. It fell from the sky and enveloped Zhuowen's head. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly. He looked indifferently at Xiao Wuji and said sarcastically, "Elder Sha, see you later." After saying that, Zhuowen activated the temporary teleportation array. A white light enveloped Zhuowen's entire body, and then he disappeared on the spot. Boom! Limitless Slaughter's terrifying palm energy descended, completely shattering the spot where Zhuowen stood into countless cracks and dust. Xiao Wuji's expression became extremely ugly. He had not expected that Zhuowen would set up a temporary teleportation array here. "Little bastard, do you think you can escape like this?" Xiao Wuji was so angry that his face turned ugly. He suddenly cut his forearm with his right index finger, and immediately cherry-red blood flowed out. Xiao Wuji's expression was solemn. His hands were constantly forming strange seals. Suddenly, some kind of red magic array appeared in the void in front of him. The pattern inside the formation was actually a wriggling red snake. Suddenly, the snake opened its eyes, emitting a scarlet light. Whoosh! The red snake was like a red lightning bolt. It disappeared on the spot and suddenly rushed out of the sect. "You can escape." Xiao Wuji's eyes were ruthless. He followed the red snake and rushed out of Hongwu Shengzhen. At this moment, Hongwu Shengzhen was in a state of panic because of the commotion caused by Xiao Wuji and the sun god. Many cultivator armies were mobilized and spread throughout the sect. Another elder of the 10 halls came out of seclusion and activated the sect protection array, wanting to stop Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had used the teleportation array to leave the sect and was not trapped in the sect. After Xiao Wuji ordered the elder of the 10 halls to guard the sect, he rushed out of Hongwu Shengzhen. In a dense forest about 10 miles outside of Hongwu Shengzhen, a white light flashed. Zhuowen and Hong Xinwu appeared in the dense forest. After walking out of the teleportation array, Zhuowen felt something. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Hongwu Shengzhen. His expression changed slightly. He felt Xiao Wuji's terrifying aura rapidly approaching. He knew that Xiao Wuji must have used some unknown secret method to find his location. Thinking of this, Zhuowen knew that the situation was urgent. He did not dare to delay and immediately walked to another temporary teleportation array. But soon he was completely stunned. The temporary teleportation array he had set up outside Hongwu Shenzhen was destroyed. Who destroyed my temporary teleportation array? Zhuowen was shocked and bewildered. He felt that it was unbelievable. The temporary teleportation array he had set up was extremely secretive. Ordinary people would not be able to find its specific location. Now that it was destroyed, Zhuowen had a bad feeling. Daowin, I've been observing you for a long time. From the first time I saw you, I could tell that you don't have any feelings for the Hong martial sacred sect. You don't even admire it. At that time, I was very curious. Why would someone like you choose to join Hongwu Shenzhen? After thinking about it, I guess that you must have entered Hongwu Shenzhen with some purpose. Suddenly, a calm voice came from the depths of the dense forest. Then, Zhuowen saw a white-haired young man slowly walking toward him. He walked very slowly, but in the blink of an eye he appeared in front of Zhuowen as if he had teleported. Zhuowen looked at the white-haired young man in front of him, and his expression turned ugly. The white-haired young man in front of him was the sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen, Guijing. Although Hong Xinwu didn't recognize this white-haired youth, he could tell that the white-haired youth in front of him was very strong from the ocean-like aura he emitted. He was even much stronger than Xiao Wuji. What a coincidence to meet you here, sect leader. May I know why you are here, sect leader? Zhuowen said coldly. Hong Xinwu was shocked. He looked Guijing up and down. He did not expect the white-haired young man in front of him to be the sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen. He was a true powerhouse at the peak of the Liyuan main district. Chapter 3974. Whoosh! At this moment, a terrifying aura surged over from afar. Waves of viscous, baleful aura that seemed to have substance fell in the surroundings like raindrops. Hong Xinwu's expression changed. He knew that Xiao Wuji was here. Xiao Wuji descended from the sky, blocking Zhuowen and Hong Xinwu's path. His scarlet eyes were filled with brutality and fury, but soon he also noticed the white-haired youth. He was stunned at first, but then he quickly cupped his hands and said respectfully, Xiao Wuji of the Punisher Hall greets the sect master. Guijing nodded slightly at Xiao Wuji and then looked at Zhuowen. Daowin, do you know why I'm here? Why ask when you already know the answer? Xiao Wuji's eyes flashed. From Guijing's words, this Daowin seemed to know Guijing, although Xiao Wuji was very angry. Since this matter involved the sect master, he naturally didn't dare to act rashly. If Zhuowen was really familiar with Guijing, he would offend the sect master if he made a move. The best thing to do now was to wait and see. Zhuowen looked at Guijing silently and said in a deep voice, Sect master, Hong Xinwu is my friend. I hope that sect master can let him off on account of my master. Guijing was silent for a moment, then he shook his head. Hong Xinwu has the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra. I must get it. I can't just let him go. Hong Xinwu's eyes were filled with anger. The Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra was obtained by the founder of the Hong sect. When your Hongwu Shenzhen wanted it, you only needed to tell us, and we might have shared it with your Hongwu Shenzhen. After all, you're the main sect, and we're just a subsect. But you didn't have the face to ask us for it. Instead, you wanted to destroy us and steal the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra. Although your Hongwu Shenzhen is the main sect, you're all a bunch of hypocrites. Xiao Wuji's killing intent soared as he said coldly, Hong Xinwu, how dare you slander the Hong martial sacred sect? You're courting death. Slander? Why would Hongwu Shenzhen need me to slander him? Isn't this the base of your Hongwu Shenzhen? How laughable! Hong Xinwu laughed loudly and continued, I can go back with you, but this matter has nothing to do with Daowin. Let him go. Sha Wuji cast a sidelong glance at Zhuo and snorted coldly. This kid barged into the Hall of Punishment and injured many of Honggu Shengzhen's men. He has already committed a grave crime. Let him go? You're dreaming. Zhuo did not look at Sha Wuji at all, but looked at Gui Jing and said coolly, Sect Master, right and wrong, I think you're clearer than me. If you can't tell right from wrong, then I have nothing to say. We can only fight. Gui Jing was silent for a long time. Then he sighed and said, I am deeply sorry for what happened to the Hong sect. Unfortunately, I was not the sect leader at that time and did not have the authority to make decisions. However, I did not participate in that operation. Although I also wanted to obtain the Heaven and Earth Haren Sutra, I did not agree with that method. However, at that time, my words carried little weight, and I could not change anything. At this point, Gui Jing looked deeply at Hong Xinwu and said, Sect Master Hong, I can help you rebuild the Hong sect and make it the #1 sect in the Wukong State region. My request is very simple. You can give the Heaven and Earth Haren Sutra to me, Honggu Shengzhen. I, Gui Jing, am willing to bear the grudge of the past and compensate you with everything that can be compensated. What do you think? Hong Xinwu was stunned. He did not expect Gui Jing to not be aggressive and instead speak kindly to him. He was even willing to make up for the grudge of the annihilation of the Hong sect. Zhuo was silent. This matter involved the Hong sect's past, so he naturally could not interfere. His goal this time was only to save Hong Xinwu. As for the grudge between the Hong sect and Honggu Shengzhen, he could not interfere. Everything depended on what Hong Xinwu did. After a long time, Hong Xinwu raised his head and looked directly at Gui Jing, saying, Sect Master Gui, you are different from the others in Honggu Shengzhen. I admire your magnanimity. I can give you the Heaven and Earth Haren Sutra, but I do not need you to support the Hong sect again, nor do I need any compensation. I only want one person's life. Gui Jing's expression changed slightly. He could already guess whose life Hong Xinwu wanted. That year, the idea of destroying the Hong sect was one of the 10 elders, Gu Yunfei's idea. The previous sect master also accepted it. Later, the previous sect master passed away. Gu Yunfei personally led a group of Honggu Shengzhen's elites to the Wukong State region and joined forces with Honggu Divine sect to completely destroy the Hong sect. I want the life of Elder Gu Yunfei of the Divine Goose Hall. If sect master can fulfill my request, I will give you the Heaven and Earth Haren Sutra without any additional conditions. Hong Xinwu said in a low voice. How dare you? Gu Yunfei is one of the 10 hall elders of the Hong martial sacred sect. He has a high position and authority. You want to kill him? That's treason. Sha Wuji said furiously. Hong Xinwu did not even look at Sha Wuji. Instead, he looked at Gui Jing, who had sunk into silence, and said, Sect Master Gui, if you can fulfill my request, I will immediately give you the Heaven and Earth Haren Sutra. Gui Jing looked deeply at Hong Xinwu and said, Gu Yunfei is one of the 10 elders. He has great influence in Honggu Shengzhen. I cannot kill Elder Gu for you. However, I can give you a fair chance to fight Elder Gu. If you have the ability to kill Elder Gu, Honggu Shengzhen will not pursue the matter. Hong Xinwu was disappointed. Gu Yunfei was a fiend god transformation expert. No matter how strong he was, could he be stronger than Gu Yunfei? Moreover, even if he cultivated desperately, he might not be able to catch up to Gu Yunfei in his lifetime, let alone kill him. Sect Master agree. Just as Hong Xinwu was about to refuse, Zhuo suddenly spoke. Hong Xinwu looked at Zhuo in disbelief. Zhuo smiled and said, I will help you deal with Gu Yunfei. Trust me. Hearing this, Hong Xinwu looked at Zhuo in a daze. After realizing that the latter was not joking, he gritted his teeth and said, Sect Master Gui, I agree to your suggestion. However, Dao Wen will fight Gu Yunfei. Gui Jing could not help but look at Zhuo. He opened his mouth, but in the end he did not say anything. After all, Zhuowen was Shan Lingyun's disciple. In his opinion, Zhuowen challenging Gu Yunfei was simply courting death. However, since Zhuowen had said so, and it was his suggestion, he naturally could not go back on his words because of Zhuowen. Otherwise, his dignity as the sect master would be gone. Xiao Wuji laughed coldly and said, "You really don't know what's good for you. Although your strength is not bad, the gap between you and the elders of the 10 halls is still too big. You actually want to fight Elder Gu. If that's not courting death, what is?" "That might not be the case," Zhuowen said indifferently. Xiao Wuji was furious. This brat's attitude really made him unhappy. Chapter 3975. After Hong Xinwu and Gue Jing came to an agreement, Hong Xinwu and Zhuowen didn't choose to stay in the Hongwu Shenzhen to wait for the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition to end. They decided to return to the Wukangzu region to settle the score with Shi Shenhong. Of course, Zhuowen had also sent a message to Luo Lingyu about returning to the Wukong state through the communication Jade token. Back then, Zhuowen and Luo Lingyu had an agreement that they would fight their way to the Hongwu divine sect together to avenge Luo Lingyu's master, Gutianqiao. Luo Lingyu quickly replied to Zhuowen and decided to return to the Wukangzu region with Zhuowen. Although the 4th Shenzhen martial arts competition had yet to end, Luo Lingyu wasn't the main force in this competition. Hence, her participation in the competition didn't affect the Green Phoenix Shenzhen. After Zhuowen and Luo Lingyu agreed on a location, Zhuowen went to the valley where Shan Lingyun was and bid farewell to her. Shan Lingyun didn't object, but she was full of resentment towards Zhuowen's agreement to fight Gu Yunfei for Hong Xinwu. Although she knew that her disciple's strength was extraordinary, his cultivation was only at the peak of the yin-yang change realm. The difference between him and Gu Yunfei was too obvious. She didn't think highly of Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't say anything about this and just dismissed it with a smile. He was very clear about his own strength. If he relied on his own strength, he was indeed no match for Gu Yunfei. However, he had a stage 5 astral weapon, which gave him the right to fight Gu Yunfei. Moreover, he also had the ultimate trump card, the Grand Emperor's Seal. Although the Grand Emperor's Seal was extremely mysterious, Zhuowen had been studying it recently and roughly understood its usage. The Grand Emperor's Seal was something that seemed to surpass the heaven-breaking divine artifact. It was definitely very powerful. If he used this seal, even 10 Gu Yunfei wouldn't be enough to kill him. Of course, the Grand Emperor's Seal was of utmost importance. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Zhuowen naturally did not want to reveal such a trump card. If he could successfully break through to the God Domain transformation before returning to Hongwu Shenzhen, his strength would skyrocket to a terrifying level. Even without the Grand Sovereign Seal, Zhuowen was confident that he could defeat Gu Yunfei. After bidding farewell to Shan Lingyun, Zhuowen, and Hong, Xinwu boarded the Sea King and left Hongwu Shenzhen's island. They headed towards the teleportation zone between the Liyuan main region and the other regions. A few days later, the two of them arrived at the teleportation zone. They did not have to wait for too long before Luo Lingyu also arrived to meet up with them. After the 3 of them met up, they entered the teleportation array to the Wukong region. After paying a certain fee, they were teleported away. When Zhuowen and the other 2 opened their eyes again, what appeared before them was the interior of a vast hall. "Looks like we've returned to the Central Plains Divine Palace," Luo Lingyu said as she looked around the Divine Palace. Zhuowen nodded. When they left the Wukong region for the Liyuan main region, they used the teleportation array in the Central Plains Divine Palace. This time, they naturally returned to the Central Plains Divine Palace. The Central Plains Divine Palace was bustling with people. Many of them were cultivators with powerful auras. They were heading to other regions or the Liyuan main region. Of course, most of them were heading to the Liyuan main region. After all, the Liyuan main region was 1 level higher than the other regions. It had better prospects for development. Naturally, It attracted many powerful and talented cultivators to train there, hoping to make a name for themselves. Let's go. We'll head straight to the Hongwu Divine Sect. Zhuowen walked out of the Central Plains Divine Palace. His gaze landed in the direction of the Hongwu Divine Sect. His eyes were filled with coldness. Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Hongwu Divine Sect had once tried to kill them. Now that they had returned to the Wukong region, they were going to settle their grudges with the Hongwu Divine Sect and Shi Shenhong. While Zhuowen and the other two were returning to the Wukong region, the Hongwu Divine Sect was bustling with activity. All the experts from the various sects in the Wukong region had gathered in the Hongwu Divine Sect. The originally deserted Hongwu Divine Sect was bustling with people today. Today was the 30,000-year anniversary of the Hongwu Divine Sect. Shi Shenhong had specially organized a grand anniversary celebration and invited many sects in the Wukong region. After all, the Hongwu Divine Sect was the #1 sect in the Wukong region. Shi Shenhong was the most powerful person in the Wukong region. Since Shi Shenhong had sent out an invitation, many sects did not dare to not give him face. At this moment, Shi Shenhong was sitting on the main seat in the Hongwu Divine Hall of the Hongwu Divine Sect. In the hall, beautiful maids were standing by the table in an orderly manner, carrying fine wine and delicacies. They were on standby at any time. In the middle of the hall, beautiful women were dancing. They were like butterflies, flapping their wings. They danced in the middle of the hall. It was a gorgeous and beautiful scene. The great guardian of the Crimson Peak Sacred Hall, Gongya Bolong, has arrived. 8 Godzhan Sect's Vice Sect Leader, Yun Kanglin, has arrived. Divine Firmament Soul Sect's Sect Leader, Yangshu, has arrived. The receptionists standing at the entrance of the hall were constantly receiving the experts from the various sects, especially the Crimson Peak Sacred Hall and the 8 Godzhan Sect, which were not any weaker than the Hongwu Divine Sect. Shi Shenhong would personally receive them and exchange a few pleasantries. As time passed, more and more experts from the sects entered the Hongwu Hall and took their seats. Could it be Brother Daowin? When Zhuowen and the other two arrived near the Hongwu Divine Sect, a surprised voice attracted Zhuowen's attention. Zhuowen could not help but turn his head. 1,000 meters behind him, a huge mutated beast was flying through the air. There were a few people standing on the beast's broad back. The person in the lead was a muscular and burly woman. When Zhuowen saw this burly woman, he could not help but be stunned. This burly woman was none other than the owner of the Great Music Lane, Che Xiaowei. Back then, Zhuowen had obtained the entry token to participate in the Hongwu Shengzhen's entrance trial from the Great Music Lane. The vice sect master of the Great Music Lane, Lu Xiaodao, stood respectfully behind Che Xiaowei. When he saw Zhuowen, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Whoosh! The mutated beast stopped beside Zhuowen and the other two. Che Xiaowei said heroically, "Brother Daowin, let me congratulate you first on officially becoming the Hongwu Shengzhen's disciple. Your future is limitless. I'm afraid the day of your meteoric rise is not far away." Zhuowen politely said a few words. Then he asked in surprise, "Owner Che, along the way I saw many sects upper echelons coming to the Hongwu Divine Sect. Did something happen in the Hongwu Divine Sect?" Che Xiaowei looked at Zhuowen in surprise and said, "Brother Daowin, don't you know about the Hongwu Divine Sect's anniversary celebration? I thought you were invited here and already knew about this matter." After listening to Che Xiaowei's explanation, Zhuowen finally knew that the Hongwu Divine Sect had been established for 30,000 years. Today was the anniversary celebration that Shi Shenhong had purposely organized. Zhuowen casually said that he was just passing by. Che Xiaowei did not suspect him and warmly invited Zhuowen to participate in the Hongwu Divine Sect's anniversary celebration. Chapter 3976. After joining Che Xiaowei's group, the strange beast set off once again. Along the way, Che Xiaorui chatted cheerfully. Most of the time, it was Che Xiaorui talking while Zhuowen listened. Soon, the strange beast arrived at the gates of the Hong Martial Divine Sect. Do you have an invitation from the Hong Martial Divine Sect? The gatekeeper stopped the strange beast and asked in a deep voice. Che Xiaorui took out an invitation and handed it to the gatekeeper. We are from the Great Music Bar. This is the invitation. The gatekeeper looked at the invitation in his hand and nodded, allowing Che Xiaorui's group to enter the Hong Martial Divine Sect. Che Xiaorui's group smoothly entered the Hong Martial Great Hall. At this moment, the Grand Martial Hall was extraordinarily bustling. Numerous long tables were placed on both sides of the hall, and a beautiful maidservant stood beside every single table. They served tea, poured wine, and served food. At the center of the hall, numerous beautiful maidservants were dancing lightly and gracefully along with beautiful music. In the great hall, many of the upper echelons of the sects were already seated. The experts who were familiar with each other were chatting. At the main seat of the great hall, Shi Shenhong was chatting happily with the 8 Gods Zhan sect's vice sect master, Yun Kanglin, and the great guardian of the Crimson Summit Temple, Gongye Bolong. The Great Music Bar could only be considered an upper-middle sect in the Wukong state. Therefore, when the receptionist announced the Great Music Bar's name, it didn't attract the attention of the experts in the Great Hall. Even Shi Shenhong didn't raise his head. He didn't even look at the people from the Great Music Bar. Che Xiaorui didn't feel awkward. She knew that with her status, it wasn't enough to attract Shi Shenhong's attention. The moment Zhuowen's group stepped into the Great Hall, they looked coldly at Shi Shenhong. Che Xiaorui's group found a more secluded spot and sat down. The tables in the Great Hall were long enough to seat more than 10 people. Therefore, when Che Xiaorui's group sat down, they didn't feel crowded. A beautiful maid stood beside the table and poured wine for Che Xiaorui's group with a smile. Zhuowen raised his wine cup and took a sip. Luo Lingyu approached him and whispered, "Junior brother Daowin, when are we going to act?" Hong Xinwu also looked at Zhuowen. Zhuowen had become their backbone. This time they were all in disguise. If Shi Shenhong did not observe carefully, he might not be able to recognize them. Let's wait and see. When the banquet officially begins, I will give Shi Shenhong an anniversary celebration that he will never forget, Zhuowen said calmly. It didn't take long for the upper echelons of the sect to arrive. Yun Kanglin and Gongye Bolong, who were chatting happily with Shi Shenhong, also took their seats. The beautiful women dancing in the center of the hall also retreated. Shi Shenhong sat on the main seat, raised his wine cup, and smiled at the crowd in the hall. Today is the 30,000-year anniversary of my Hong Martial Divine Sect. It is a joyous occasion for my Hong Martial Divine Sect. Everyone invited here is giving me Shi Shenhong and the Hong Martial Divine Sect face. Let me offer a toast to everyone. Everyone raised their wine glasses and spoke politely, but in their hearts they felt quite comfortable because of Shi Shenhong's words. Next, the banquet reached its climax. Everyone was in high spirits as they toasted each other. Shi Shenhong was also very happy. He came down to chat with the upper echelons of the sect that he was familiar with. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Even Che Xiaorui found other upper echelons of the sect that she was familiar with. They toasted each other and chatted happily. Zhuowen silently sat in front of the table. After drinking the wine in his hand, he suddenly stood up and smashed the wine cup on the ground. Bang! The wine cup shattered, and the crisp sound echoed throughout the hall. The originally harmonious atmosphere in the hall instantly quieted down. Everyone stopped talking and involuntarily looked at Zhuowen. Che Xiaorui, who was chatting with several upper echelons of the sect, also looked at Zhuowen with a puzzled expression. She found it strange that Zhuowen would suddenly smash his wine cup. This kind of behavior was extremely rude. She was afraid that Shi Shenhong would chase him out. As expected, Shi Shinhong's expression turned ugly as he coldly looked at Zhuowen. However, when he saw Zhuowen's face, he couldn't help but be startled. This was because he wasn't unfamiliar with this young man. This was the young man that Hong Xinwu had tried his best to protect. He was a remnant of the Hong sect. At the same time, Shi Shinhong also saw Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu standing behind Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with shock. Hong Xinwu? Luo Lingyu? You guys have guts to come to the Hong martial divine sect. Shi Shinhong revealed a cold smile as his eyes were filled with killing intent. At the same time, he had secretly sent out a message. Many cultivators of the Hong martial divine sect began to gather outside the Hong martial hall. Many of the upper echelons of the sect present also revealed shocked expressions. Although they had never seen these three people before, they had heard of Hong Xinwu and knew that he was the sect master of the Hong sect. However, they remembered that Hong Xinwu was captured by Hong Wushengzhen. Why would he appear here now? Brother Daowin, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you apologizing to sect master Shi? Che Xiaorui was extremely anxious as she hurried to Zhuowen's side and whispered to them, Apologize? Why should I apologize? If anyone should apologize, it should be Shi Shinhong who kneels down and apologizes to us. To be honest, I came here today to kill Shi Shinhong and destroy the Hong martial divine sect. As long as Shi Shinhong kneels down and apologizes and commits suicide, the Hong martial divine sect can still survive. Zhuowen said calmly. Che Xiaorui's heart sank. She knew that once Zhuowen said those words, even if he apologized, it would be useless. Shi Shinhong would definitely not let him off easily. Everyone in the hall looked at Zhuowen as if they were looking at an idiot. This kid was too arrogant. He actually dared to say that he would kill Shi Shinhong and destroy the Hong martial divine sect. How could he possibly do it? Unless he was a fiend god transformation expert and wanted to come personally. However, Zhuowen was too young and obviously couldn't be a fiend god transformation expert. How long has it been since we last met? You little bastard. Your words are getting more and more arrogant. Today, since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. An extremely terrifying aura erupted from Shi Shinhong's body. It was as if a terrifying mountain was crashing down, filling the entire hall with a terrifying pressure. Shi Shinhong, I'm no longer the same as before. The current me can kill you as easily as slaughtering a dog. Zhuowen shook his head. Shi Shinhong was so angry that he laughed. This kid must have gone crazy. He actually dared to say that he could kill him as easily as slaughtering a dog. Good, good, good. I want to see how you can kill me as easily as slaughtering a dog. I'll give you a chance to challenge me. Go to the Hong Martial Plaza now. Shi Shinhong said coldly. Zhuowen smiled slightly and didn't say anything. Instead, he walked out of the hall and towards the vast Hong Martial Plaza outside. Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu followed closely behind. After being stunned for a while, the upper echelons of the sect swarmed out. They were all very interested in Zhuowen's challenge to Shi Shinhong. Chapter 3977. The cultivator army of the Hong martial divine sect had already surrounded the Honggu Square. However, they were all guarding the edge of the square. Shi Shinhong didn't give them any orders, so they naturally couldn't take the initiative to attack. At this moment, these cultivators saw a young man leisurely walk out of the Hongwu Hall and come to the edge of the square. Shi Shinhong followed closely behind him. Then, in the Hongwu Hall, many of the sect's upper echelons who were attending the banquet stopped at the edge of the square. Their faces were filled with interest. Sai, this Daowin, isn't he courting death? Che Xiaorui was in the crowd. She looked at Zhuowen, who was standing in the center of the square with a complicated expression, and couldn't help but shake her head. Vice Sect Master Yin, don't you feel that this kid's figure is a little familiar? Great Guardian Gongya Bolong whispered to Yun Kenglin beside him. Yun Kanglin's beautiful eyes were filled with doubt. She nodded and said, I also feel that this Daowin's figure is a little familiar, but I just can't remember where I've seen him before. Fine, who cares if he's someone I've seen before? He'll be a dead man soon. It's not worthwhile for us to bicker with him. Gongya Bolong shook his head and laughed. Gongya Bolong and Yun Kanglin weren't the only ones who thought so. Everyone present thought that Zhuowen was courting death. The sect master of the Hong martial divine sect, Shirshenhong, was recognized as one of the top experts in the Wukong region. His cultivation base had reached the middle stage of the god domain transformation stage. His strength was unfathomable. How could he be defeated by this unknown brat? Among this group of people, only 2 people were confident in Zhuowen. They were Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu. Luo Lingyu had seen with her own eyes how Zhuowen killed the half-step god domain transformation Mo Hongxian with one move. Without a doubt, Zhuowen had the strength of a god domain transformation. He wouldn't be much weaker than Shirshenhong. As for Hong Xinwu, he knew that Zhuowen even dared to challenge the Hongwu Shengzhen. Naturally, he wouldn't doubt Zhuowen's strength. Your name is Daowin, right? I really don't know where you got the courage to challenge me. You have to know that even your Hong Xinwu, the leader of the Hong sect, might not be my match. Shirshenhong clasped his hands behind his back, the arrogance in his eyes shooting out like lightning. Although Hong Xinwu had defeated him back then, that was because Hong Xinwu had put his life on the line. However, Shirshenhong was no longer the same as before. He had received many resources from Hongwu Shengzhen, as well as powerful divine items. His cultivation base had reached the peak of the mid-god domain transformation, and he had powerful divine items. Even Hong Xinwu wasn't a match for him now, not to mention this young man who had been protected by Hong Xinwu back then. I've said it before. I'll kill you like a dog. I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to kill you. Zhuowen said indifferently. Shirshenhong was furious. At this point, this kid was still so arrogant. Where did he get the confidence to be so arrogant? Good. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant at this point. Originally, I wanted to spare your dog life, but now it seems like there's no need for that. Arrogant and ignorant trash like you should be killed. As he spoke, Shirshenhong stood where he was and punched out with his right hand. Terrifying divine energy gathered in the void, forming a huge blood-red palm. This blood-red palm was simply too enormous. It was like an insurmountable mountain that fell from the sky. Everywhere it passed, space collapsed and formed countless black holes. So powerful. This Shirshenhong has become even stronger. He's probably not far from the late god domain transformation. In the crowd, Yun Kanglin and Gongya Belong's expressions changed slightly and their hearts sank. Although they had chatted and laughed with Shirshenhong at the banquet, they knew deep down that their sects were competitors with the Hong martial divine sect. Naturally, they didn't want Shirshenhong to become too strong. Everyone cried out in alarm. They could feel the terror of Shirshenhong's palm, and they all cast pitiful gazes at the young man standing not far away. This young man was really courting death. Why did he have to provoke Shirshenhong in public? Now his death was at hand. Boom! 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 The blood-red palm was too terrifying. It let out thunderous booms as it fell, and Zhuowen's entire body was drowned in it. The entire Hong martial square shook violently as if there was an earthquake. The area where Zhuowen was standing crumbled inch by inch. It was like a dense spiderweb, and it was extremely terrifying. Everyone shook their heads. They knew that Zhuowen was dead for sure. Even an early god domain transformation expert wouldn't feel good after receiving such a palm, let alone a yin-yang transformation expert like Zhuowen. When the dust settled, everyone's eyes suddenly widened, because they saw that in the center of the dust there was a figure that looked like a long spear, standing upright. This person was none other than Zhuowen. At this moment, Zhuowen's entire body was shining with golden light. He was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. In that instant, he had fused with the sun god, and his body was unparalleled. Even Shi Shinhong's attack couldn't cause too much damage to him. "HM, your body." Shi Shinhong immediately saw that Zhuowen's body was extraordinary. Although he had only casually attacked, it wasn't something an ordinary martial artist could withstand. However, Zhuowen seemed to be unharmed. It was clear that his body had reached an extremely terrifying level. "Shi Shinhong, is this all you've got? If so, then you're too weak." Zhuowen shook his head. Shi Shinhong's face immediately darkened. He coldly said, "Don't think that you're amazing just because you took one of my moves. I only used 30% of my strength. Now I won't be merciful." With that, Shi Shinhong took a step forward, and a terrifying energy ripple appeared in the air. Like a ghost, Shi Shinhong disappeared from his original spot. In the blink of an eye, Shi Shinhong appeared above Zhuowen. His entire body's aura was as vast as the ocean as it came crashing down. At some point in time, Shi Shinhong had taken out a long spear. This spear was not unfamiliar to Zhuowen. It was called the Limitless Sky-Piercing Spear. Back then, when Shi Shinhong was chasing after him and Hong Xinwu, he had used this divine spear. Die. Shi Shinhong spun his right hand, and the limitless sky-piercing spear flew out of his hand and fell from the sky. The spear spun at high speed, like a top, creating an extremely terrifying hurricane. The limitless sky-piercing spear had spatial characteristics. The moment he charged towards Zhuowen, he suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind Zhuowen, piercing towards his back. Zhuowen sneered. He suddenly raised his hand, and a blazing purple-gold light emerged from his body. Then, a terrifying sword qi swept out like a storm. Chapter 3978. Although the appearance of this purple-gold sword embryo was somewhat shabby, the aura it emitted caused everyone present to shudder. This is a rank 5 astral weapon? What a powerful aura! Everyone was frightened by the purple-gold sword embryo's terrifying aura. Some even recognized the rank of the purple-gold sword embryo and couldn't help but cry out. The purple-gold sword embryo suddenly swept out and then casually slashed at the limitless sky-piercing spear. Bang! The limitless sky-piercing spear suddenly trembled and actually quickly fled. It also had intelligence. Feeling the terror of the purple-gold sword embryo, it didn't even have the courage to resist. Unfortunately, the purple-gold sword embryo's power was too strong. Its speed was also heaven-defying. It quickly caught up to the limitless sky-piercing spear and suddenly slashed out. A terrifying sword qi swept out, and with a bang, the limitless sky-piercing spear was cut in half. What? When Shi Shinhong saw the limitless sky-piercing spear cut in half, his expression changed greatly. He was extremely shocked in his heart. Rumble! The purple-gold sword embryo was like a hot knife through butter. After cutting the limitless sky-piercing spear, it turned into a purple-gold light and shot towards Shi Shinhong. Shi Shinhong's expression was unsightly. He continuously retreated while taking out a large cauldron from his spirit ring. This large cauldron's aura was far stronger than the limitless sky-piercing spear. On the cauldron's body were dense special runes. Each rune emitted a faint golden light, revealing a vast and unparalleled aura. This is a rank 8 heaven-breaking divine weapon. Among the spectators, someone immediately recognized the cauldron's rank and couldn't help but exclaim. Clang! The purple-gold sword embryo stood on top of the cauldron. The large cauldron only trembled and actually blocked the purple-gold sword embryo's attack. Shi Shinhong let out a light breath and coldly looked at Zhuowen. This cauldron is called the Motionless Golden Cup Cauldron. It is a rank 8 heaven-breaking divine weapon. It was bestowed by Hongwu Shengzhen. Today, I will use this cauldron to destroy you. Sure Shenhong knew that the power of a rank 5 astral weapon was indeed extremely impressive, but he also knew that Zhuowen's cultivation was not high and couldn't completely display the power of the purple gold sword embryo. Therefore, he was confident that he could defeat Zhuowen. With a whoosh, the purple gold sword embryo returned to Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen lightly looked at the complacent Sher. He shook his head and said, "Heaven-breaking, rank 8 heaven-breaking divine weapon. How can it threaten me? Sher Shenhong, you are really stupid." As he spoke, Zhuowen opened his right hand and grabbed the sword embryo. "Today, I'll let you see the limitless sky." After he finished speaking, Zhuowen suddenly raised his right hand above his head and then fiercely chopped down at Sher Shenhong. A terrifying purple gold sword chi that spanned the heavens, and the earth shot out from the purple gold sword embryo. It traversed the heavens and the earth, piercing through the past and the present, and slashed towards Sher Shenhong. Sher Shenhong's expression completely changed. He felt a strong threat of death from this purple gold sword chi. It was as if he was as weak as a blade of grass in front of this sword chi, insignificant and lowly. Sher Shenhong gritted his teeth and took out the cauldron in his hand. He desperately poured his divine power into the cauldron. He knew that he had to block this attack. Otherwise, he would die without a burial place. The cauldron erupted with a blazing golden light. It was like a sun illuminating the earth. Boom! The terrifying sword chi finally landed on the cauldron with a loud bang. This sound was too loud, too vast. It almost spread throughout the entire Wukong state. As his voice fell, the cauldron shattered into pieces, and the sword energy pierced through Sher Shenhong like a hot knife through butter. Sher Shenhong didn't even have the chance to scream. His entire body was crushed by the terrifying energy. He completely evaporated, leaving nothing behind. In an instant, the entire place fell into an eerie silence. Everyone stared blankly at the sky, where Sher Shenhong was sliced into pieces by the sword chi. Behind him, the sword chi shot up 90,000 miles, broke through the sky, and slashed open an earth-shattering black hole. This scene was too shocking. It shook everyone's hearts and made them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. So strong! How can this Tao rune be so strong? Che Xiaorui's eyes were lifeless as she mumbled to herself. She didn't even know what she was saying. She was just mumbling to herself to express her shock. Gongya Bolong and Yun Kanglin fell into silence. Fear towards Zhuowen rose in their hearts. Just as Che Xiaorui said, Zhuowen was too strong, so strong that it made them feel fear. What they felt was the same for everyone present. The many cultivators of the Hong Martial Divine Sect that surrounded the Hong Martial Plaza were so frightened that their legs trembled. They almost couldn't stand still. Their sect master, Sher Shenhong, was killed without a trace. No matter how many of them there were, how could they be a match for Zhuowen? Many of them even had the thought of running away. I've said it before. I'll kill Sher Shenhong like a dog. I'm a man of my words. Zhuowen said slowly. Although his voice wasn't loud, it was as loud as thunder in everyone's ears. Crash! Finally, all the cultivators of the Hong Martial Divine Sect that surrounded the plaza knelt on the ground. They couldn't hold on any longer. They were so frightened that they had lost all will to fight. They only begged Zhuowen to spare their lives. "Sir, please spare our lives." A cultivator said in a trembling voice. I've said it before. I'm here today to destroy the Hong Martial Divine Sect. If you don't want to die, then leave the Hong Martial Divine Sect. From now on, you're no longer a member of the Hong Martial Divine Sect. Zhuowen said faintly, I'm willing to leave the Hong Martial Divine Sect. I'm also willing to leave the Hong Martial Divine Sect. All the cultivators took the initiative to renounce their status as Hong Martial Divine Sect's disciples and announced their departure. However, there were 3 people who stood in the crowd like a spear. They looked at Zhuowen with hatred and no fear. Zhuowen's gaze landed on the 3 of them. The 3 of them were middle-aged men with vast auras. They should be the upper echelons of the Hong martial divine sect. "You're not convinced?" Zhuowen asked casually. "We're not convinced. You have a grudge with Shi Shenhong. What right do you have to destroy the Hong martial divine sect? Our Hong martial divine sect didn't do anything wrong. Yet you want to destroy our sect. You're inhumane." A middle-aged man said sternly, "Just a grudge between me and Shi Shenhong? Hee, I'll tell you clearly now. I'm a disciple of the Hong sect. Tell me, do you think I have any grudges with your Hong martial divine sect?" Zhuowen's voice was as loud as a bell, resounding throughout the plaza. The 3 middle-aged men's faces changed. They didn't expect Zhuowen to be a survivor of the Hong sect. No wonder he threatened to destroy the Hong martial divine sect. Chapter 3979. Is there anyone else who doesn't agree? Zhuowen's long robes fluttered in the wind as he hovered in midair, surveying the crowd. All the cultivators who met his gaze were shocked and lowered their heads, not daring to look him in the eye. Even Yun Kanglin and Gongya Bolong, 2 early-stage God domain transformation experts, were filled with fear and reverence towards Zhuowen. Shi Shenhong was, after all, a mid-stage God domain transformation expert and was far stronger than the 2 of them. In the Wukong province, only the strongest experts of their Scarlet Summit Temple and 8 Gods Zhan sect could contend with him. Moreover, Shi Shenhong possessed a heaven-breaking rank 8 divine artifact. Even if their Scarlet Summit Temple and 8 Gods Zhan sect joined forces, they might not be Shi Shenhong's match. However, Shi Shenhong, who was so powerful, had been slain by Zhuo when while wielding a Tier 8 heaven-crushing divine tool. They knew that a large part of the reason why Zhuowen could kill Shi Shenhong so easily was because of the rank 5 astral weapon, the purple gold sword embryo. They also coveted the purple gold sword embryo, but they didn't have the guts. After all, Zhuowen was too strong. If they tried to snatch it, wouldn't they be courting death? Zhuowen looked around, and seeing that no one dared to answer, he said leisurely, "From now on, the Wukong province no longer has the Hong martial divine sect. Within 3 days, everyone from the Hong martial divine sect must leave. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy." As soon as these words came out, many disciples and elders of the Hong martial divine sect heaved a sigh of relief. Then they hurriedly fled and left the Hong martial divine sect. As for the higher-ups who came to the Hong martial divine sect for this year's anniversary celebration, they didn't dare to provoke Zhuowen and left one after another. "Brother Daowin, you possess such strength at such a young age. Your future is limitless. The Hong martial divine sect will belong to you in the future. You will become the new sect master of the Hong martial divine sect. I, Scarlet Summit Temple's great guardian Gongya Bolong, congratulate Brother Daowin first." Gongya Bolong didn't leave. Instead, he nodded and bowed toward Zhuowen in an extremely humble manner. Yun Kanglin cursed Zhuowen Gongya Bolong's cunning in her heart. She quickly stepped forward and stated that the 8 God Zhan sect was willing to recommend Zhuowen as the new sect master of the Hong martial divine sect. Zhuowen looked down at the 2 of them indifferently and said, "I said that the Hong martial divine sect will no longer exist in this world, and you want to elect me as the new sect master. Do you think my words are like farts? SSSSST. TSSSS. T scram." Zhuowen shouted coldly. Gongya Bolong and Yun Kanglin had ugly expressions on their faces as they left the Hong martial divine sect with their tails between their legs. "It's all thanks to you that I'm able to enter the Hong martial divine sect. Let me treat you well," Zhuowen Bolong suddenly said. Che Xiaorui and the others were flattered. They stayed in the Hong martial divine sect under the envious gazes of the sect's upper echelons. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhuo Bolong had the strength to kill Shi Shenhong. He was probably the strongest person in the Wukong state. Even the Scarlet Summit Temple and 8 Gods Zhan sect wouldn't be able to compete with him in the future. Che Xiaorui and the others were able to climb up a branch like Zhuo Bolong. Their futures were limitless. Many of the sect's upper echelons were already considering going to the exquisite music plaza to improve their relationship. Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu hurriedly went up to greet him. They looked at Zhuo when excitedly, their eyes filled with gratitude. Shi Shenhong was their archenemy. Now that Zhuo Bolong had killed Shi Shenhong, it could be said that he had avenged them. Zhuo Bolong looked at Shi Shenhong and smiled. "Sect Master, I know that you have always wanted to rebuild the Hong martial divine sect. What do you think of the Hong martial divine sect?" Hong Xinwu was stunned. He immediately understood that Zhuo Bolong wanted to give him the entire Hong martial divine sect to rebuild the Hong martial divine sect. "Daowin, good. You have the heart. After the Hong martial divine sect is rebuilt, you will be the new sect master." Hong Xinwu bowed deeply to Zhuo. Hong Xinwu knew very well that Zhuo Bolong had done him a great favor. Not only did he save his life, but he also helped him kill his archenemy. Now that he was helping him rebuild the Hong martial divine sect, the position of sect master would be none other than Zhuo. Zhuo Bolong shook his head. "Sect master, you are still the sect master of the Hong martial divine sect. I can take up a position in the Hong martial divine sect and become an elder, but you know that I won't be staying in the Hong martial divine sect for long." Zhuo Bolong looked at Hong Xinwu. He indeed wouldn't stay here for long. He planned to stabilize the Hong martial divine sect before leaving the Wukong state. He planned to go to the Liyuan main region to find out how to go to the Nuwa domain. Hearing this, Hong Xinwu's eyes dimmed. He didn't expect Zhuo Bolong to reject the position of sect master and not stay for long. But he also knew that this matter couldn't be forced. Zhuo Bolong had his own path and wouldn't be bound to the Hong martial divine sect. In the following period of time, Zhuo Bolong and Hong Xinwu officially changed the Hong martial divine sect to the Hong martial divine sect and announced to the entire Wukong state that the Hong martial divine sect was recruiting disciples. Originally, Zhuo Bolong thought that there wouldn't be many cultivators coming to join the Hong martial divine sect, but the result was out of his expectations. There was an endless stream of cultivators coming to join the Hong martial divine sect, including some powerful rogue cultivators. Ever since Zhuo Bolong killed Shi Shenhong, his name spread far and wide. Everyone in the Wukong state knew about him. Everyone knew that a powerful person had appeared in the Wukong state. He broke into the Hong martial divine sect and killed Shi Shenhong in a few moves. Many people joined the Hong martial divine sect because of Zhuo Bolong. Everyone was very clear that an expert even stronger than Shi Shenhong, with such an expert at the helm, the development of such a force was bound to be extremely fierce. Without a doubt, the Hong martial divine sect had a lot of room for growth and would become the #1 sect in the Wukong state in the future. Because of this, many people joined the Hong martial divine sect, including many experts who had been famous for a long time. During this period of time, Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu could be said to be extremely busy, but the two of them were also in pain and joy. They knew that with these people joining, the Hong martial divine sect would rise in a short period of time. Zhuo Bolong stayed in the Hong martial divine sect's treasury during this period of time. After all, the Hong martial divine sect had been around for 30,000 years. The treasury was extremely rich. Zhuo Bolong planned to use the resources in the treasury to break through to the God domain transformation. Once he did, he would have a higher chance of defeating Gu Yunfei when he returned to the Hong martial divine sect. As time passed, the Hong martial divine sect recruited a large number of outstanding cultivators. As the sect leader, Hong Shinwu Bolong assigned these cultivators their respective roles. The Hong Martial Divine sect also started to get on the right track. Chapter 3980. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed, and the Hong sect was growing stronger by the day. One day, the door to the treasury of the Hong sect swung open, and a young man walked out of the treasury with his back straight as a spear. The young man's gaze was like lightning, and it was hard to look at him directly. He walked out step by step, and the aura on his body was as vast as the ocean, as if it was going to destroy the entire sky. The Hong Martial Divine sect's treasury didn't disappoint me. It actually allowed me to break through to the God Realm transformation. The young man was naturally Zhuowen, and his eyes were filled with joy. During this period of seclusion, he had finally taken the final step and stepped into the God Realm transformation. Boom, boom, boom. The moment Zhuowen walked out of the treasury, a strange dark cloud gathered in the sky above the Hong sect. In the depths of the dark cloud, there were many huge black holes. Each black hole seemed to be able to cover the sky, and a terrifying aura was brewing within the black holes. What is that? The aura is so terrifying. Could it be the heavenly tribulation? This is the heaven-crushing tribulation. But this tribulation is too terrifying. Why did 9 black holes appear all of a sudden? Within the Hong sect, countless cultivators looked up at the sky, and when they saw 9 black holes appear in the sky, and each black hole was brewing terrifying energy ripples, they were all terrified. Hong Shinwu and Luo Lingyu also hurriedly walked out of the sect, and looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky in shock. Look, there's a figure there. Someone is walking towards the 9 black holes in the sky. Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise. Immediately, numerous gazes looked over. Sure enough, they saw a young man in the air. This young man looked ordinary, but he had an otherworldly aura about him. The young man walked in the air leisurely, step by step, and walked towards the 9 black holes in the sky. Dao Win. He's out of seclusion. Looks like he broke through. Is this his heaven-crushing tribulation? Why is it so terrifying? Luo Lingyu immediately recognized Zhuowen, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Hong Shinwu also revealed a look of worry. This heaven-crushing tribulation had yet to begin, and it already possessed such might. If the tribulation really began, how terrifying would it be? He even doubted whether Zhuowen could survive this tribulation. Luo Lingyu's voice was not soft and was immediately heard by the surrounding cultivators. Only then did everyone realize that this young man was the expert who had killed Shi Shenhong. So he's Senior Dao Win. As expected of Senior Dao Win, even his heaven-crushing tribulation is so extraordinary and powerful. I always thought that Senior Dao Win was an old man. I didn't expect him to be so young. Under everyone's gaze, the 9 black holes in the sky unleashed terrifying bolts of lightning at the same time. Each bolt of lightning seemed to be able to destroy the world, and its power had reached an unprecedented level. The moment the destructive lightning struck, everyone in the Hong sect turned pale with fright. This lightning was simply too terrifying. It was as if it could destroy the world and destroy everything. Any one of the bolts of lightning could raze the Hong sect and even the surrounding mountains to the ground. However, everyone was even more shocked to discover that under this terrifying destructive lightning, Zhuowen was like an immortal god. He floated in midair and resisted the endless lightning bolts that were crashing down. These lightning bolts were all blocked by Zhuowen's physical body. What a terrifying physical body! As expected of the expert who killed Shi Shenhong. Everyone looked at Zhuowen's back with reverence in their eyes. Boom! 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 The 9 black holes in the sky unleashed waves of extremely terrifying energy. Each wave was more terrifying than the last, and each wave was more intense than the last. It was as if the entire world was going to be destroyed. However, Zhuowen was able to block all of these terrifying energies by himself. When the last wave of energy dissipated, the 9 black holes in the sky closed and the dark clouds dispersed. Bright sunlight shone from the depths of the sky. Zhuowen slowly descended from the sky. His body was covered with cracks like a spiderweb. Blood dripped from his wounds, and he looked extremely pitiful. However, the energy in his body was getting stronger and stronger. It swept across the entire Hong sect like a tidal wave. Many cultivators knelt on the ground in fear. The wounds on Zhuowen's body were healing at a rate visible to the naked eye. Zhuowen's eyes lit up with excitement. He had finally broken through to the divine realm. His strength had increased by more than 100 times. It was extremely terrifying. Moreover, Zhuowen also realized that his divine realm was extremely strange. It was much more powerful than the average divine realm. With that thought in mind, a purple divine realm appeared in a radius of a few thousand meters around Zhuowen. In the middle of the purple divine realm, a gigantic star rose up. This star was extremely strange. Within the star, there were many powerful figures, and the moment this purple star rose, the surrounding ground cracked and split apart, forming an abyss that grew deeper and deeper. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he immediately withdrew his divine realm. That star in the divine realm, could it be the immemorial star system? Zhuowen couldn't help but look up at the sky. There hung a gigantic star that hadn't changed since ancient times. It was the immemorial star system. Zhuowen had never imagined that the divine domain he condensed would actually be an immemorial star. It was no wonder that his divine domain was so much stronger than an ordinary divine domain. The cultivators of the Hong sect were all frightened by Zhuowen's divine domain and retreated far away. Especially when they saw the huge abyss that appeared in the ground, they were even more shocked. They looked at Zhuowen with even more respect and fear. "Dawen, congratulations on successfully coming out of seclusion and breaking through." Hong Xinwu walked over with Luo Lingyu with a carefree smile. The stronger Zhuowen was, the happier he was. Zhuowen couldn't help but smile when he saw Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu walking over. At the same time, he used his divine sense to check the surrounding cultivators of the Hong sect. "Sect Master, it seems like you've recruited a lot of talents during this period of time," Zhuowen said with a smile. Hong Xinwu chuckled. "Isn't this all thanks to you? If it weren't for you, not many people would be willing to join the Hong sect." Next, Hong Xinwu, Luo Lingyu, and Zhuowen walked side by side, strolling around the Hong sect. At the same time, Hong Xinwu also told Zhuowen about the various major events that had happened in the Hong sect during this period of time. "Sect Master, when do you plan to follow me to Honggu Shengzhen?" Zhuowen looked at Hong Xinwu and asked. Hong Xinwu looked hesitant. Luo Lingyu, on the other hand, was a little worried. "Junior brother Dawen, although your cultivation has broken through to the divine domain transformation stage and your strength has increased greatly, Gu Yunfei is an expert in the early stage of the demonic transformation stage. He's too strong. Even if it's you, I'm afraid." Luo Lingyu had heard about the agreement between Zhuowen and Gu Yunfei from Hong Xinwu. When she heard that Gu Yunfei was one of the 10 elders of Hongwu Shengzhen, she was even more worried about Zhuowen. Chapter 3981. Half a month later, Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu followed Zhuowen to Hongwu Shengzhen. Hong Xinwu handed over all the affairs of the Hong sect to an old man who had just joined the Hong sect. He was at the early stage of the deity realm transformation stage. This old man was called Hong Luo. He had been defeated by Shi Hong of the Hong Wu divine sect and had a deep grudge against Shi Hong. After Zhuowen had killed Shi Hong, Hong Luo had joined the Hong sect immediately and worshipped Zhuowen fervently. In this half a month, Zhuowen had set up a heaven-breaking level 7 protective array in the Hong sect. This level of array could be said to be the most powerful array in the Wukong state. At the very least, no one in the Wukong state could break this array. Hong Luo sent Zhuowen and the others to the Central Continent Divine Hall. His fervent gaze was always on Zhuowen, and he was extremely respectful. Zhuowen felt a headache coming on. Hong Luo's worship of him had reached a crazy level. This made Zhuowen speechless. After a few days of hurrying, the three of them finally arrived at Hong Wushengzhen. After returning to Hong Wushengzhen, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to enter Hong Wushengzhen. Instead, he entered the Great Word Incantation Forest outside Hong Wushengzhen. After passing through the Great Word Incantation Forest, Zhuowen arrived at the valley where Shan Lingyun was. To Zhuowen's surprise, he did not see Shan Lingyun in the valley. "Did Master go out?" Zhuowen muttered softly. He did not think too much about it. After waiting in the valley for a day and seeing that Shan Lingyun had not returned, he brought Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu into Hong Wushengzhen. When Zhuowen stepped through the gate of Hong Wushengzhen, Zhuowen realized that many of the cultivators in the sect were looking at him strangely. They looked at him as though he was a freak. As for the cultivator guarding the gate, he was sending out a message. It seemed like he was notifying someone. That Daowen really came? He has guts, daring to challenge Elder Gu Yunfei, and even daring to come here. This kid is also stupid. Who does he think he is? He actually wants to challenge Elder Gu Yunfei. That's one of the 10 palace elders. How heaven-defying is his strength? Many disciples in the sect were in an uproar. They spread the news from 1 person to 10, and from 10 to 100. Almost all the disciples in the sect knew that Zhuowen had returned. During this period of time, Zhuowen was a big celebrity in Hong Wushengzhen. Rumors of him challenging Gu Yunfei and threatening to kill him to avenge the Hong sect had spread like wildfire. Many disciples felt that Zhuowen was crazy. Back then, he was only an outer sect disciple. He actually dared to challenge a big shot like Gu Yunfei. Wasn't this courting death? Of course, more people thought that Zhuowen was just bluffing. They didn't think that Zhuowen would dare to come to Hong Wushengzhen again. Doing so was no different from courting death. But now, everyone was surprised that Zhuowen really came and stepped into Hong Wushengzhen openly. On the outer sect peak, Ziling also heard the news and quickly called out to Li Xinbing. "Junior sister, Ziling, what's wrong?" Li Xinbing opened the door and saw that Ziling was at a loss. She quickly asked, "Senior sister Li, something bad has happened. Senior brother Dao Wen has returned to Hong Wushengzhen." Ziling said anxiously. Li Xinbing's pupils shrank to the size of needles, and her face changed drastically. Why is he back? Let's go, we have to stop him. We can't let him enter Hongwu Square, or it'll be too late." With that, Li Xinbing pulled Ziling and hurriedly left the outer sect peak. In the depths of Hong Wushengzhen, Gu Yunfei was sitting cross-legged in his study in the Divine Goose Hall. The aura in his body was like a dragon, and it exploded with an extremely ear-piercing sound. Suddenly, Gu Yunfei opened his eyes and took out his communication jade. After reading the news on it, a sinister smile appeared on his face. "Dao Wen? This guy really dares to come. Fine, this kind of ant is too presumptuous. I'll kill him today. And that Hong Xinwu, I won't let him go." With that, Gu Yunfei took a step and disappeared from the Divine Goose Hall. Zhuowen's arrival did not only alarm Gu Yunfei, but also the rest of the elders. Most of them walked out of their respective halls. In the Dragon Elephant Hall, Pei Shanglong looked at the communication jade in his hand and shook his head gently. He muttered to himself, "Why bother with this Dao Wen? He's really young and impetuous. He's digging his own grave." In Pei Shanglong's eyes, Zhuowen's future was still very bright, but he had done extremely stupid things time and time again. Now, Pei Shanglong had already determined that Zhuowen was a brainless guy. At this moment, the main character, Zhuowen, was walking slowly in Hong Wushengzhen. Many disciples of Hong Wushengzhen followed behind Zhuowen. They were all looking at Zhuowen with a mocking look. "Senior brother, Dao Wen." Suddenly, a clear voice called out from behind. Then, 2 beautiful female disciples walked out of the crowd and came to Zhuowen, ignoring the strange looks of the other disciples. Junior sister Ziling, junior sister Li. Zhuo Wen looked at the two women in front of him and said with a smile, Senior brother Daowin, you must not go to Hongwu Square. Elder Gu is one of the elders of the 10 halls. He's not someone you can fight against. You should run. Li Xinbing said. Zi Ling also looked at Zhuo nervously. Although Zhuo's strength was indeed strong, so what? The gap between Zhuo and Gu Yunfei was too big. They did not think that Zhuo would be a match for Gu Yunfei. Zhuo was stunned. He then shook his head and said, Thank you for your concern. This time, I came to Hongwu Shenzhen to kill Gu Yunfei. Don't worry, Gu Yunfei is not as strong as you think. It won't be difficult for me to kill him. Ziling and Li Xinbing looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. They thought that Zhuo was a little overconfident. Hee, what an arrogant kid. Who do you think you are? How dare you say that it won't be difficult for you to kill Elder Gu? I think he's crazy. How can he say such nonsense? When Elder Gu comes later, I think he'll kneel down and beg for mercy. Many of the disciples around them were agitated. They thought that Zhuo was too arrogant to say such words. He was looking down on Gu Yunfei and Hongwu Shenzhen. Zhuo glanced indifferently at the crowd of excited disciples and shook his head. He didn't make a fuss about it and continued forward towards the Hongwu Square. He knew very well that words were not proof. Only when he killed Gu Yunfei in front of everyone would these people believe him. Therefore, he did not bother to explain anything. It seems that he's scared. He doesn't even want to talk. Later, I'd like to see how he looks when he kneels down and begs for mercy. Haha, we'll definitely see it. When that time comes, we'll be able to see how ugly he is. Let's wait for Elder Gu to show his power and blast this kid into pieces. Chapter 3982. At this moment, there were even more people surrounding the Hongwu Square. It was bustling with activity, and there was an endless stream of people surrounding the Hongwu Square. When Zhuo arrived, everyone inside and outside the Hongwu Square fell into silence. Their gazes fell on Zhuo, as if they were bright lamps shining on Zhuo. Facing so many gazes, Luo Lingyu and Hong Xinwu felt a chill in their hearts. However, Zhuo remained calm and didn't seem to mind at all. Zhuo raised his head and saw the door of the Hongwu Hall slowly open, as a magnificent figure walked out from it. With a casual step, he appeared above the center of the square as if he had teleported. It was as if he had descended from the heavens. It's the sect master. I didn't expect the sect master to come out. Isn't this making a mountain out of a molehill? With Elder Gu's strength, he can kill this ant with just a flick of his finger. Why does he need the sect master to come out personally? The square was in an uproar. Many disciples felt that Gue Jing was making a big fuss out of nothing. Dao Win, you still came in the end. Gue Jing looked at Zhuo with a complicated gaze. Her faint voice slowly sounded around the square. Zhuo looked at Gue Jing. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he actually saw a trace of shame in Gue Jing's eyes. Zhuo, I will protect you in this battle. I won't let you lose your life. Gue Jing's voice suddenly sounded in Zhuo's mind. Zhuo was stunned. He looked at Gue Jing. He did not expect that Gue Jing would save his life. However, he didn't say much. With his strength, he didn't need Gue Jing to save his life. What he was puzzled about was why Gue Jing looked ashamed when she saw him. This puzzled Zhuo. At the same time, he had a bad premonition. Whoosh! Whoosh! All of a sudden, the sound of something breaking through the air resounded from all directions of the square. Silhouettes with powerful auras appeared in the sky above the square. Everyone looked over and discovered that these figures were actually all members of the elders of the 10 halls. For example, Dragon Elephant Hall's Pei Shanglong, Punisher Hall Shaoji, and so on. Furthermore, they were shocked to discover that all the elders of the 10 halls had come, and Gu Yunfei was among them. Gu Yunfei was dressed in a green robe. After he respectfully bowed to Gue Jing, He floated above the square and looked down at Zhuo as if he was looking at an ant. Dao, I admire your courage. You actually dare to challenge this elder's dignity. You must be tired of living. Gu Yunfei said with a cold gaze. Zhuo, on the other hand, was fearless and said indifferently, I'm not complaining that my life is too long, but that yours is too long. Hearing this, Gu Yunfei's face immediately darkened, and the killing intent in the depths of his eyes was as strong as lightning. Sect leader, since this lad has challenged me, can we start now? Gu Yunfei looked at Gu Jing and asked. Gu Jing nodded and said, Elder Gu, you and Dao are both pillars of Hongwu Shengzhen. Let's have a friendly duel. Don't force it to the death. Gu Yunfei was stunned, and his face immediately darkened. How could he not understand Gu Jing's meaning? She was implying that he should show mercy. After all, with his celestial demon transformation cultivation, it would be easy for him to crush Zhuo. The other elders of the 10 halls frowned. They also felt that Gu Jing was a little too partial to Zhuo. Sect leader, you also said that this lad had threatened to kill Elder Gu. Obviously, this lad wants to have a life-and-death duel. How is this a friendly duel? Moreover, who does he think he is? He's just an outer disciple. Since he has offended Elder Gu, he naturally deserves to die. Sha Wuji was the first to speak. Gu Yunfei also said, Sect leader, this lad has offended me many times. Now that he has provoked me, as an elder of the Divine Goose Hall, I can't be a coward and embarrass Hongwu Shengzhen. Gu Jing frowned. Just as she was about to speak, Zhuo spoke. Sect leader, I request to have a life-and-death duel with Gu Yunfei. The winner shall live, and the loser shall die. Zhuo spoke slowly. His voice was not loud, but it resounded in everyone's ears like thunder. Instantly, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Zhuo in disbelief and thought that this lad was crazy. The sect leader was obviously partial to him. Not only did he not take advantage of it, but he even refuted the sect leader. He was simply stupid. Gu Jing frowned and looked at Zhuo seriously. She said, Dao, are you sure you want to have a life-and-death duel? I'm sure. I hope the sect leader can agree. Also, don't forget your promise. If I kill Gu Yunfei, Hongwu Shengzhen will not pursue the matter. Zhuo said calmly. Gu Yunfei sneered and said, You still want to kill me? How laughable. Let me ask you, who do you think you are? The other elders shook their heads secretly. They felt that Zhuo was a little too arrogant, so much so that he was a little idiotic. Sect leader, agree to the life-and-death duel. This lad is really too arrogant. He has already started to provoke the dignity of Hongwu Shengzhen. We can't let him live. That's right. This lad has already stepped on our heads. How can we tolerate this? We must have a life-and-death duel. Let Elder Gu teach him how to behave properly. The other elders all spoke out, wanting Gu Jing to agree to the life-and-death duel. Gu Jing sighed softly and looked deeply at Zhuo. She said, Dao, this is the path you chose. Don't blame me for not reminding you. I agree to the life-and-death duel. As soon as she said that, all the cultivators in the square cheered. They all thought that Zhuo was dead for sure, and no one could protect him. In the crowd, Luo Lingyu's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She said to Hong Shenwu beside her, Sect leader, what do you think junior brother Daowen's chances of winning are? Hong Shenwu was silent for a moment and sighed softly. Now that things have come to this, we can only choose to believe in Daowen. Gu Yunfei slowly walked down from the sky. Step by step, he finally landed on the ground in the center of the square. Daowen, get over here and die. Gu Yunfei's voice was like thunder. It resounded around the square and rumbled in everyone's ears. It was extremely majestic. Zhuo sneered and strode towards Gu Yunfei. Step by step, the aura on his body became more and more vast. It was as if some terrifying beast was gradually awakening in his body. I didn't expect him to have already broken through to the God domain transformation. His talent is indeed extraordinary. His cultivation is actually so fast. Gue Jing was shocked when she felt the aura on Zhuowen's body. When she first met Zhuowen, the latter was only at the mid-stage of the yin-yang change. How long had it been since then? He had already reached the early stage of the God domain transformation. This cultivation speed was far inferior to her. The 9 of you help me set up a barrier. Gue Jing instructed the other 9 elders of the 10 halls. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible barrier began to form around the Hongwu Plaza. Chapter 3983. In an instant, an extremely thick barrier was formed around the Hongwu Square. Outside the spirit array, there were many disciples and elders of the Hong martial sacred sect. They were all looking forward to the scene inside the spirit array, excitedly. They were all waiting for Gu Yunfei to kill Zhuowen. In the crowd, Ziling and Li Xinbing's faces were pale. They looked helpless. They did not expect things to turn out this way. This was the worst outcome they could think of. Sai, senior brother Daowin is too stubborn. Why is he so stubborn? Li Xinbing sighed. Senior sister Li, this is senior brother Daowin's choice. The 2 of us can't change it. I only hope that Elder Gu can show mercy. Ziling murmured. At this moment, Zhuowen came out from the square with a calm expression. Gu Yin Fei grinned cruelly and said impudently, "Little bastard, you brought all of this upon yourself. You're dead, and you're going to die a horrible death." Zhuowen looked at Gu Yunfei indifferently and sneered. That's a good way to describe you. You're going to die a horrible death. Gu Yunfei's expression immediately turned ugly. He laughed sinisterly and said, "Arrogant and conceited brat, I won't waste my breath on you. You'd better die." After saying that, Gu Yunfei spread his wings like an eagle and leaped into the air. A terrifying aura burst out from his body. Suddenly, the entire Hongwu Square was shrouded by a powerful and vast aura. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was not affected at all. A purple divine domain spread out in all directions with him as the center. The purple divine realm was blurry. It was shrouded in a purple mist. It was impossible to see what was inside the divine realm. When Gu Yunfei saw Zhuowen hiding in the purple divine realm, his eyes were filled with disdain. "I'll let you have a taste of the true power of the celestial demon change." As he said that, golden light surged out of Gu Yunfei's body. The golden light was like an ocean, gathering in the space behind him and forming a huge golden figure that seemed to connect the heavens and the earth. Upon closer inspection, the original form of the golden figure was a huge celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body. Gu Yunfei leaped up and landed on the eagle-headed man's shoulder. He looked down coldly at the purple god domain below and said, "Shuajin, crush this god domain for me. Trample on this kid's body, crush him, and destroy his soul." After receiving Gu Yunfei's instructions, the eagle-headed fiend god called Shuajin let out a clear and cold cry. Afterwards, he suddenly raised his huge foot and viciously stomped down on the purple domain below. Rumble! This fiend god was simply too powerful. When his right foot stomped down, a terrifying explosion rang out in the air. Space exploded and time stopped. Is this the power of the celestial demon change? It's so strong, especially the celestial demon that Elder Gu summoned. It's too terrifying. I'm like an ant in front of it. Humph. After all, Elder Gu is one of the 10 Hall elders. How can you possibly imagine how powerful he is? This Daowin will be crushed into a meat patty. No, he'll be crushed into powder and disappear from this world. When the celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body appeared, most of the disciples were shocked. Their eyes were filled with fear and respect. Most of them had never seen a battle of the celestial demon change. Today they were deeply shocked. Hee hee. You don't know what's good for you. Now you know the power of the celestial demon change. But it's too late. Outside the barrier, among the 10 people who were maintaining the barrier, Infinite Kill sneered and thought disdainfully in his heart. Although Gui Jing's expression was calm, there was a trace of a sigh in his eyes. He had wanted to save Zhuowen's life. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was too stubborn. He insisted on fighting Gu Yunfei to the death. Now, he knew the severity of the consequences. Lingyun, I've tried my best. Although I promised you that I would take good care of Zhuowen, he acted on his own accord. Now even I can't save him. Gui Jing recalled what Shan Lingyun had told him before she left and couldn't help but feel ashamed. Boom! Suddenly, just when everyone thought that the battle was over, an earth-shattering explosion sounded from within the barrier. Then, under everyone's incredulous gazes, the powerful celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body actually screamed and retreated. Everyone looked over and instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because they realized that the right leg of the celestial demon had been blasted into a bloody mess. Golden blood flowed like a stream, splattering on the ground and forming a golden pool. How is this possible? Gu Yunfei, who was on the shoulder of the celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body, looked ahead and saw a purple star slowly rising from Zhuowen's purple realm of gods. Within the star, there were figures with extremely terrifying auras flickering. However, it was impossible to see the exact appearance and posture of these figures. Everyone present also looked at the star and revealed a shocked expression. This was because they weren't unfamiliar with this star. It could even be said that they were extremely familiar with it. It was the immemorial star. No one had expected that there would actually be an immemorial star in Zhuowen's realm of gods. Although this wasn't the real immemorial star, but a virtual image formed by copying the immemorial star. This virtual image was too real. Even the smallest details on the surface of this star were almost exactly the same. What was more shocking was that the power of the virtual image of the immemorial star was too terrifying. It actually injured the celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body, so easily. Dang, dang, dang. Crisp footsteps sounded, and Zhuowen slowly walked out from the center of the realm of gods. The virtual image of the immemorial star was like a child as it revolved around his body. Gu Yunfei, this is the power of the celestial demon transformation that you were talking about. How laughable! Zhuowen shook his head and said sarcastically. Gu Yunfei was furious. He stared at Zhuowen, and the killing intent in his eyes reached its peak. He absolutely could not allow this brat to live. Judging from this brat's extraordinary deity domain, Gu Yunfei could tell that this brat's future would be terrifying. Once he reached the fiend god transformation stage, killing him would be as easy as flipping his hand. Die. Gu Yunfei didn't hold back and merged with the celestial demon with an eagle head and a human body. Gu Yunfei was like a core that provided energy. After he merged with the celestial demon, the aura of the celestial demon increased by several times. His mangled right leg also quickly healed. Mu Feng, you have angered me. The consequences will be extremely severe. Gu Yunfei's voice came from the celestial demon's mouth. Then the celestial demon strode towards Zhuowen. Its right palm was like a mountain as it slammed towards Zhuowen. Chapter 3984. You won't be able to escape. Gu Yunfei's voice was like thunder, reverberating in everyone's ears. It was extremely terrifying. The god fiend blasted out another palm towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen snorted coldly and charged forward. The divine domain around him reached its limit, and a massive primordial star rose from the center of his divine domain. Boom! In an instant, the mountain-like palm collided violently with the immemorial star. Instantly, terrifying energy ripples spread out in all directions and exploded. Dang, dang, dang. The mountain-like god fiend let out a groan and couldn't help but retreat. Every step he took caused an unprecedented earthquake in the square and left behind terrifying footprints on the ground. As for Zhuo who was under the deity domain, he was sent flying and heavily crashed into the boundary. A terrifying explosion rang out, as if countless bombs had exploded. However, to everyone's astonishment, the mysterious purple divine domain that surrounded Zhuo was like a thick armor. It did not show any signs of shattering. Instead, it protected Zhuo within it, preventing him from suffering any injuries. Zhuo stood up, and the primordial star's projection hung above his head. Purple light shone brightly, and the entire Hongwu Shenzhen was shrouded in this mysterious purple light. "Huh, awesome. Gu Yunfei, is this all you've got? You're really weak, too weak." Zhuo laughed heartily and shot towards Gu Yunfei. After advancing to the divine domain transformation stage, Zhuo had never used his full strength in a real battle. He wasn't clear about the extent of his strength, but now he knew that his strength was comparable to Gu Yunfei in the early fiend god transformation stage. This surprised and delighted Zhuo. The primordial grand mist technique was too miraculous. It allowed him to reach such a godlike level. This was probably the strongest technique in the entire 100 domains. Zhuo, who had nothing to worry about, went all out in battle. He rushed to the front of the god fiend, and purple gas condensed in his hand. It extended to the primordial star and turned into chains that locked the primordial star's phantom. Zhuo fiercely swung the ancient star phantom, which was like an indomitable weapon, towards the fiend god in front of him. Gu Yunfei's face was gloomy as his right hand slammed into the primordial star's projection. Instantly, terrifying energy exploded, and the god fiend couldn't help but be pushed back. Although Zhuo was pushed back, he was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed and launched another fierce attack. His attacks were endless. Everyone in the Hongwu Square was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw Zhuo's invincible might, especially when they saw Gu Yunfei's demon god being ruthlessly suppressed. So strong. This is senior brother Dao Wen's strength. Looks like our worries were unnecessary. In the crowd, Ziling and Li Xinbing looked at each other in surprise. They knew that not only was Zhuo's life not in danger, but he also had a high chance of defeating Gu Yunfei. We still underestimated Zhuo. His divine realm is not an ordinary divine realm. Haha, for my Hong sect to have such a genius, it is my Hong sect's great fortune. Hong Xinwu laughed loudly, his eyes filled with joy. The 9 elders of the 10 halls who were maintaining the barrier were also completely stunned. Their hearts were filled with shock and horror. Is this guy really an outer disciple of our Hong Wu Shenzhen? How can there be such a powerful outer disciple? One of the elders blurted out. Sha Wuji's face darkened, but he couldn't calm down. His strength was on par with Gu Yunfei. Now that Gu Yunfei couldn't take down this kid, even after using all his strength, he couldn't do it either. But Sha Wuji still couldn't believe it. A few months ago, Zhuo was still being chased by him. Now that he had returned, he had become so terrifying. This guy was going against the heavens. Even the calmest Gue Jing's eyes flickered. He was indescribably shocked in his heart. Zhuo's strength had greatly exceeded his expectations. Ah, Dao Wen, I want you to die. Die without a burial place. Gu Yunfei was furious. The eagle-headed divine demon suddenly formed a seal with both hands. A pair of golden wings grew out of the divine demon's back. At the same time, a long golden blade appeared in the divine demon's hands. It's the second form of the divine demon. Has Elder Gu reached the middle stage of the divine demon transformation? The 10 elders' eyes lit up. They were all experts of the fiend god transformation realm, and they knew that the fiend god transformation realm had several forms. The higher one's cultivation, the more forms one could take. For example, in the early stage of the divine demon transformation, a divine demon could only have one form. In the middle stage, there were 2 forms. In this way, a divine demon at the peak of the divine demon transformation could have 4 forms. It was precisely because of this change that the difference in strength between cultivators of the fiend god transformation stage was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. No, Elder Gu hasn't successfully advanced. He should be half a step into the middle stage of the divine demon transformation. His second form is incomplete. Gui Jing suddenly said. Hearing this, everyone noticed that the left half of the golden wings on the back of the eagle-headed man was dim, as if it was transparent. If it was the complete form, the left wing wouldn't be so dim. But even so, it was still much stronger than an early-stage divine demon transformation. Boom, boom, boom. The eagle-headed man's divine demon aura had reached a terrifying level. As it strode forward, its terrifying aura formed a terrifying storm. Many of the onlookers were shocked. The second form of the eagle-headed man's divine demon was too terrifying. It was like a mountain pressing down on everyone's hearts. This should be Elder Gu's ultimate move. It's so powerful that the Dao rune can't block it. Many people thought to themselves. Zhuowen stood silently at the edge of the barrier. He slowly raised his head and looked at the approaching divine demon. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Bang! The eagle-headed man's statue stepped in front of Zhuowen. It raised its long golden blade and viciously chopped down on Zhuowen's head. Blazing golden light filled the sky. It was a terrifying sight. Zhuowen sneered. His right hand swung the ancient star shadow and smashed it against the golden blade. Bang! The ancient star shadow was instantly suppressed by the golden blade. The purple light was fiercely suppressed by the golden light. It was about to collapse at any time. Haha, an ant will always be an ant. You're dead, Dao Rune. Gu Yunfei laughed heartily. He knew that Zhuo Wen's death would be the moment the primordial star palace's silhouette was destroyed. Gu Yunfei, you're really pathetic. You didn't see through the situation at all. You deserve to die. Chapter 3985. This purple light was really too fast as lightning. When the purple light completely pierced through Gu Yunfei's body, the spectators finally saw the true appearance of this purple light, a purple sword embryo. This purple sword embryo was really too unremarkable. Its surface was full of holes, and it didn't even have a sharp edge. From afar, it looked more like a thick staff with a sword hilt. However, the aura exuded from the surface of the purple sword embryo made the spectators' hearts palpitate. It was as if there was a formless sword qi piercing through their eyes and into the depths of their souls, cold and terrifying. Pung! In the Hangwu Plaza, the gigantic eagle-headed god-fiend knelt on the ground and then heavily crashed onto the ground. Its whole body trembled, and the golden light on its body gradually dissipated. Meanwhile, Gu Yunfei, who had fused with the god-fiend, had a huge bloody hole in his chest. Blood flowed freely, and a large pool of blood gathered on the ground. Putong! However, after the god-fiend completely dissipated, Gu Yunfei knelt on the ground in a sorry state. He clutched his chest, and his face was terrifyingly pale. That was just a feint, and this was your final killing move? Gu Yunfei stared fixedly at Zhuowen, his eyes filled with unwillingness and anger. Zhuowen slowly walked in front of Gu Yunfei. The purple sword embryo circled around him like a child, and a hazy purple light dyed the whole Hangwu Plaza. Gu Yunfei, I said, you are too pathetic. You didn't recognize the situation at all, so you lost. Zhuowen looked down at Gu Yunfei, and with a grab of his right hand, he grabbed Gu Yunfei's neck and lifted him up. Gu Yunfei kept struggling, and his face became extremely red. That was because he was suffocating. At the same time, he felt very humiliated. His heart had been destroyed, and more than half of the energy in his body had dissipated. Moreover, he couldn't form a cycle, and his current power was not even comparable to the heaven-crushing fifth transformation. So how could he resist Zhuowen? There was an uproar all around the plaza, and everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. In everyone's eyes, this battle should have been a one-sided battle, but now they saw a one-sided battle. However, it wasn't Gu Yunfei who was crushing Zhuowen, but Zhuowen who was crushing Gu Yunfei instead. What's going on with this Tao pattern? Was he really a god's domain metamorphosis? How can there be such a terrifying god domain change expert in this world? He's definitely hiding his cultivation level. No matter how heaven-defying a deity realm transformation is, how could he possibly defeat a fiend god transformation cultivator? This is simply impossible. Everyone in the square was discussing animatedly. They were all shocked beyond belief. They all felt that Zhuowen was too powerful. Ziling and Li Xinbing clenched their fists so tightly that they felt like their knuckles were going to crack. Daowen, what are you trying to do? Gu Yunfei is one of the 10 elders of Hongwu Shengzhen. How dare you? Let him go. Gue Jing and the 9 elders, who were maintaining the barrier, were also shocked by this scene. Among them, Limitless Slaughter reacted and loudly berated Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned a deaf ear. He didn't even look at Limitless Slaughter. Instead, he carried Gu Yunfei and went straight to Hong Xinwu's side of the barrier. Gu Yunfei, open your dog eyes and see who this is. Zhuowen pressed Gu Yunfei to the edge of the barrier and said coldly. Gu Yunfei naturally saw Hong Xinwu. His gaze turned cold as he roared angrily, Daowen, what are you trying to do? If you want to kill me, do as you please. However, Zhuowen simply ignored Gu Yunfei. Instead, he looked at Hong Xinwu and asked in a deep voice, Sect Master, should we destroy this trash? Hong Xinwu's eyes were filled with hatred. Gu Yunfei! Back then, you brought an army to our Hong sect. Without any reason, you wanted to steal the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra. Although the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra is precious, but as a branch sect, it's fine for us to give it to the main sect. The main sect will also give us treasures as compensation, but you were greedy and didn't want the other factions to know about it. You wanted to wipe out the entire Hong sect. You are such a selfish person. You bastard, you deserve to die. Gu Yunfei laughed loudly. My Hongwu Shengzhen has so many branch sections. So what if I destroy a few? To me, Hongwu Shengzhen, you're all ants. If I want to kill you, I can kill you. Gue Jing, who was maintaining the barrier, had a gloomy expression. He coldly shouted, Elder Gu, what are you talking about? When the Hong sect was destroyed, you clearly reported that the Hong sect resisted and refused to hand over the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra. They even insulted Hong Wu Shengzhen, so the sect decided to send troops to the Hong sect. Gu Yunfei said disapprovingly, Sect leader, the branch sects are ants. They serve the Shengzhen. If they are destroyed, then so be it. The Shengzhen can naturally cultivate new branch sects. Now this kid dares to insult me, which is the same as insulting the Shengzhen. Sect leader, give the order to capture this kid. I will slowly torture him until he dies, and I suspect that he has also practiced the Heaven and Earth Haran Sutra, so we can't let him go. Limitless Slaughter quietly entered the enchantment. The baleful chi on his body was retracted and blended into the space, as if he was transparent. When Limitless Slaughter got close to Zhuowen, he immediately bared his fangs, and a terrifying baleful aura exploded out. Limitless Slaughter raised his blood-red sword and stabbed it towards Zhuowen's back. Die, you ant! Xiao Wuji sneered with a smug expression on his face. Daowen, be careful! Gue Jing quickly sent a message. Zhuowen's lips curled into a cold smile. A purple god domain suddenly burst out from his body. The immemorial star's shadow seemed to be ready to attack at any time as it suddenly smashed towards eternal slaughter. Bang! Xiao Wuji's expression changed slightly. The blood sword suddenly changed and blocked in front of the immemorial star. Then he was hit by a huge force and snorted as he retreated. At this moment, the purple sword radiance was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. In an instant, it swept over and pierced through Xiao Wuji's glabella before he could react. No! Xiao Wuji roared into the sky. Unfortunately, it was all to no avail. His soul was completely shattered by the purple-gold sword embryo, and his head exploded. Plop! When Sha Wuji's body fell to the ground, the dull sound of his body falling to the ground rang in everyone's ears. It was extremely loud and ear-piercing. Sha Wuji, the elder of the punishment hall, one of the 10 hall elders and one of the top powerhouses in Hanggu Shenzhen, had died just like that. Those who want to kill me had better think about their own strength. Otherwise, my means of revenge are extremely fierce. Don't blame me for not warning you. Zhuowen's voice sounded faintly and broke the silence. Gu Yunfei, who was being held in Zhuowen's hand, was dumbfounded. For the first time, he felt a bone-chilling fear. The young man in front of him was really bold. He had killed Sha Wuji so decisively. What about him? Was there a need to say more about his fate? Daowin, this is a misunderstanding. If you let me go, Hanggu Shenzhen will not do anything to you, and will send you out safely. If you kill me, you will not be able to walk out of Hanggu Shenzhen. Gu Yunfei half pleaded and half threatened. He had realized that Zhuowen would really kill him. Ho! I have already made an agreement with the sect leader. If I kill you, Hanggu Shenzhen will not pursue the matter. You can go in peace. Zhuowen sneered. His right hand formed a sword and pointed at Gu Yunfei's glabella. Puff! Chapter 3986. Gue Jing pulled back his sleeve, and the barrier was immediately put away. He then fell from midair, and his expression was not very good. Zhuowen's battle prowess had exceeded his expectations. He had actually managed to kill Gu Yunfei. Of course, just as Zhuowen had said, he had an agreement with Zhuowen. If Gu Yunfei had really been killed by him, Hanggu Shenzhen would not pursue the matter. He would not deny this. However, he was unhappy that Zhuowen had not only killed Gu Yunfei, he had also killed Limitless Sword Saint. Within a day, he had lost 2 elders of the 10 halls. This loss was too great for him. The other 8 elders of the 10 halls were also gloomy as they landed on the Hanggu Square. They were naturally not in a good mood. After all, they were all elders of the 10 halls. It was inevitable that they would grieve for the loss of their fellow elders. However, they did not dare to confront or provoke Zhuowen. They did not see how easily Limitless Sword Saint had been killed. Without a doubt, the only person in Hanggu Shenzhen who could suppress Zhuowen was the sect leader, Gue Jing. Daowin, this is different from what you said. Why did you kill Limitless Sword Saint? Gue Jing walked up to Zhuowen and questioned him angrily. Zhuowen looked at Gue Jing indifferently and said, Sect Master, you saw it too. This Sha Wuji wanted to kill me, and he even dared to make a move to kill me. Do you think I need to let him live? Why? Is the sect master going to denounce me for this? Gue Jing looked deeply at Zhuowen and finally sighed dejectedly. It was indeed wrong to kill Wuji, but it's not your fault. Gue Jing felt helpless. Based on the strength that Zhuowen had just displayed, Gue Jing felt that Zhuowen was at least in the middle stage of the demonic transformation realm. They were not far apart. Although Gue Jing had a powerful trump card, it was hard to say that Zhuowen did not have one. Therefore, Gue Jing felt that even if he were to attack, he would not be able to defeat Zhuowen. It was because of this that Gue Jing calmed down and did not intend to pursue Limitless Sword Saint's death. After all, Limitless Sword Saint had brought this upon himself. If Limitless Sword Saint had not attacked Zhuowen, Zhuowen might not have targeted him. Gue Jing also cherished Zhuowen's talent. Zhuowen was young, but his talent was extremely terrifying. He was naturally tempted by such a talent and wanted to recruit Zhuowen. Daowin, with such powerful strength, why don't you join Hanggu Shenzhen's side? Gue Jing looked expectantly. Gue Jing looked expectantly at Zhuowen. Shenzhen, to resources. Shang's. Pei Shanglong and the other 8 elders of the 10 halls were shocked. They did not expect Gue Jing to value Zhuowen so much that she wanted him to be the vice sect leader. Ever since Hongwu Shenzhen was established, it had never appointed a vice sect leader. If Gui Jing insisted, it would be like opening a new river. Moreover, if Zhuowen became the vice sect leader, he would directly suppress the elders. Naturally, they were unwilling, but they did not dare to refute Gui Jing. After all, they were Gui Jing's subordinates. It was not their place to make irresponsible remarks. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, but he shook his head and said, "Sect leader, I'm used to freedom. I don't like being restricted by the sect. Moreover, I'm a disciple of the Hong sect. If I join Hongwu Shenzhen now, I'm afraid it's not appropriate." When Hong Shenwu was captured by Gu Yunfei, the Hong sect only existed in name. At that time, Zhuowen joined Hongwu Shenzhen to rescue Hong Shenwu. Now that Hong Shenwu was rescued and a new Hong sect was established in Wukong State, Zhuowen naturally did not want to stay in Hongwu Shenzhen anymore. Gui Jing frowned and continued to persuade. "Since you're afraid of being restricted, how about this? You only need to hang your name in Hongwu Shenzhen. You'll still be the vice sect leader, but you don't have to fulfill any of the duties of a vice sect leader. You can even use the sect's resources. However, Hongwu, when Shenzhen is in danger, you have to work together with Hongwu Shenzhen. What do you think?" Zhuowen looked at Gui Jing with rather surprise. He hadn't expected that Gui Jing would actually make such a huge concession in this aspect. Needless to say, Gui Jing could be said to be very sincere. Zhuowen thought for a moment and nodded. "If this is the condition, I can agree to it. However, I have a condition. Hongwu Shenzhen must fully support the Hong sect and help it develop. This is what Hongwu Shenzhen owes the Hong sect." Zhuowen thought that Gui Jing would hesitate, but he did not expect Gui Jing to agree without hesitation. Compared to the Hong martial sacred sect, developing the Hong sect was just a small matter to Gui Jing, as long as the Hong martial sacred sect was able to recruit someone as talented as Zhuowen. After Zhuowen agreed, Gui Jing finally smiled and solemnly announced that Zhuowen would be the vice sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen. As soon as the announcement was made, the countless disciples in the square were in an uproar, but they quickly calmed down. Everyone had seen Zhuowen's strength and knew that Zhuowen was qualified to be the vice sect leader. In this world, the strong were respected. As long as you were strong enough, you would be able to hold a high position, and the rest of the cultivators would be convinced. Zhuowen was now an untouchable powerhouse compared to Hongwu Shenzhen. Although the 8 elders of the 10 halls were a little hesitant, no one objected. Just like that, Zhuowen became the vice sect leader of Hongwu Shenzhen, and the news quickly spread throughout the entire Liyuan main territory. "Brother Daowin, come with me. I'll bring you to your palace," Gui Jing said with a smile. Zhuowen nodded and waved his hand, beckoning Hong Shenwu and Luo Lingyu to come with him. At the same time, he said to Gui Jing casually, "Sect leader, I have 2 friends in Hongwu Shenzhen. I hope you can treat them well." Gui Jing asked, "Who are they?" "If they are your friends, I won't mistreat them." Zhuowen told Gui Jing the names of Li Xinbing and Ziling. Since Zhuowen was acquainted with these 2 women, since he was the vice sect leader, he naturally had to help them. After Gui Jing agreed, she left the Hongwu square with Zhuowen, leaving the countless disciples in the square looking at each other in dismay. They didn't expect that everything would end like this. The scene just now was like a dream. It didn't seem real. Where are Li Xinbing and Ziling? Suddenly, Pei Shanglong walked out with a complicated expression and reported the names of the 2 women. Li Xinbing and Ziling's hearts tightened and they quickly ran out. After all, Pei Shanglong was one of the elders of the 10 halls, a high and mighty figure. "From now on, the 2 of you will follow me and cultivate. From now on, you will be my last disciples." Pei Shanglong said. Li Xinbing and Ziling were stunned at first, but then they were overjoyed and quickly bowed to him. They understood what this meant. Chapter 3987. Gui Jing brought Zhuo to an extremely grand and luxurious palace. This palace was surrounded by teams of strict patrols. There were also many beautiful maids in the palace, who were taking care of the palace. When Gui Jing came to the front and back of the hall, the patrols and maids all walked out and bowed to Gui Jing respectfully. Although their status wasn't high, they still knew that the sect master was Gui Jing. In the future, this hall will belong to Daowin. He is your new hall master and also the deputy sect master of Hongwu and Shenzhen. Remember to serve him well and not neglect him. Do you understand? Gui Jing's gaze was majestic as she looked down at the patrols and maids. Her voice was like thunder in everyone's ears. Everyone looked at Zhuo and was extremely surprised to find that he was so young. However, they naturally wouldn't go against Gui Jing's words. They all bowed to Zhuo and respectfully called him deputy, sect master. Gui Jing was very satisfied with the performance of these servants. She then turned around and looked at Zhuo seriously. Daowin, can we talk in private? I have something important to tell you. Zhuo looked at the solemn expression on Gui Jing's face and felt a trace of unease in his heart. He nodded and followed Gui Jing to the side of the hall. Meanwhile, Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu remained where they were, waiting silently. Sect master, what do you want to tell me? Zhuo asked. Gui Jing's gaze was complicated as she whispered. Did you go to the valley to look for Ling Yun? Yes, but Master isn't in the valley. Does sect master know where Master is? Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He was a little disappointed that he didn't find Shan Lingyun in the valley. Now that Gui Jing said this, she should know where Shan Lingyun was. Gui Jing sighed softly and fell into silence. She wanted to say something, but stopped. Zhuowen's face immediately turned gloomy, and he said in a deep voice, Sect master, could it be that something happened to my master? Gui Jing's expression gave Zhuo an extremely bad premonition. 3 days ago, Patriarch Huxley, Lu Rinjue, personally brought people to capture Ling Yun. I'm sorry I couldn't keep Ling Yun. Gui Jing's eyes dimmed. Lu Rinjue was too powerful. Although he had attacked back then, he had been easily repelled by Lu Rinjue. He had even suffered severe internal injuries. What? How did Lu Rinjue know my master's location? Zhuo clenched his fists tightly, his eyes bursting with anger. When Shan Lingyun was searching for Moyin of Wushang for him, she had already expended too much of her lifespan. Zhuo originally wanted to find a way to obtain the limitless longevity god medicine from Huxley after settling the matters at Hongwu Divine Sect. Unexpectedly, Shan Lingyun's whereabouts were exposed and she was caught. Gui Jing shook his head. He didn't know why Shan Lingyun's whereabouts would be exposed. After all, Shan Lingyun had stayed here for many years and had always been safe and sound. However, such an accident had happened this time. Since Master is Lu Renjue's illegitimate daughter, she is Huxley's humiliation. Isn't Master in danger? I have to go to Huxley. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with anger. Gui Jing hurriedly stopped Zhuo and said, Daowin, you can't go to Huxley. You're still too weak. Going to the Hushu clan is just suicide. Zhuowen's eyes darkened. Sect Master, don't worry. I won't act rashly. I will find a chance to save Master. Gui Jing said in a low voice, Huxley's defense system is extremely strong. It's definitely not something you can imagine. Furthermore, Lu Rinjue is at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation. His strength far surpasses yours. No matter how careful you are, you won't be able to save Ling Yun. Also, Ling Yun's life shouldn't be in too much danger now. Zhuo calmed down. Gui Jing was right. The Hushu clan was the largest power in the Hushu realm. They had many experts, and they even had an ancient star transformation realm expert guarding them. No matter how heaven-defying he was, it was almost impossible for him to save Shan Lingyun, unless Zhuowen's cultivation reached the celestial devil transformation. There might be a chance. Sect Master, what do you mean? Zhuowen asked. You should have experienced Ling Yan's spirit language technique. She is extremely talented in this area. She can definitely be called the strongest spirit language master in the entire Huxley realm. Her value is indescribable. As long as Lu Rinjue isn't a fool, he won't kill Ling Yan. Gui Jing said in a low voice. What do you mean? Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Gui Jing was right. Shan Lingyun was extremely valuable. Huxley would probably keep her alive. Back then, Lu Rinjue wanted to kill Shan Lingyun because she was still young and an illegitimate daughter. She didn't have any value. But now it was different. Lu Rinjue can also see that Ling Yan only has 100 years left. In his opinion, Ling Yan will eventually die. He doesn't even need to do it himself. Hence, he will definitely make good use of Ling Yan's spirit language technique before her lifespan is up. Gui Jing stared at Zhuowen and said in a low voice, Daowen, your talent is really strong. You can kill Gu Yunfei and Xiao Wuji, who are both in the early stages of the celestial devil transformation realm. If your cultivation improves, you will have the ability to save Ling Yan. We still have 100 years. In this 100 years, I will do my best to help you cultivate. I will use the power of the entire Hangu Shengzhen sect. Gui Jing looked at Zhuowen with anticipation. He knew that, with his talent, it would be difficult for him to break through. Hence, he placed all his hopes on Zhuowen. He knew that if there was anyone who could save Shan Lingyun, it would be Zhuowen. Zhuowen bowed deeply to Gui Jing and said in a low voice, Sect leader, I will have to trouble you for this. Gui Jing sighed softly and said, You don't have to thank me. I promised Lu Huanyu that I would take good care of Ling Yan. Now that I didn't keep my promise, I will do my best to make up for it. Gui Jing bowed to Zhuowen and said, Daowen, I will have to rely on you. Once you are successful in your cultivation, I will follow you to the Huxley. After Zhuowen and Gui Jing reached an agreement, Gui Jing decided to bring Zhuowen to a place in 3 days. That place could speed up his cultivation. Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu naturally didn't know about the agreement between Zhuowen and Gui Jing. They also didn't know about Shan Lingyun. The two of them stayed in Hangu Shengzhen for 2 days before bidding farewell to Zhuowen. Hong Xinwu planned to return to the Wukong state to develop the Hong sect. Luo Lingyu expressed her willingness to assist Hong Xinwu and become the deputy sect leader of the Hong sect. Zhuowen approved of this decision. Luo Lingyu's talent was extremely high. It wouldn't be a problem for her to reach the God Realm transformation stage in the future. She might even have a chance to reach the Celestial Demon transformation stage. With Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu, as well as Zhuowen's reputation, he knew that no one in the Wukong state would be foolish enough to go against the Hong sect. The second day after Hong Xinwu and Luo Lingyu left, Gui Jing found Zhuowen and brought Zhuowen away from Hangu Shengzhen. The island where Hangu Shengzhen was located was in the middle of a boundless Black Sea. This Black Sea was extremely dangerous. It was filled with many giant beasts and evil spirits. Many ships that passed by had fallen into the Black Sea. There was basically no chance of survival. Chapter 3988. Zhuowen looked at Gui Jing, who was standing at the bow of the ship, and asked, Sect Master, where are you taking me? Can that place really speed up my cultivation? Gui Jing turned around and said rather seriously, I found this place by accident. It contains extremely pure energy, and this energy is not ordinary chaotic energy, but a higher level energy. I suspect that place might have something to do with the immemorial star system. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a serious expression. The immemorial star system was a high and mighty place, and there were legendary gods there. And a place that could be related to the immemorial star system was definitely not an ordinary place. The spaceship traveled on the Black Sea for a full 10 days before finally stopping. Zhuowen noticed that there was a small whirlpool directly below the spaceship. This whirlpool was too ordinary and it was difficult to notice the existence of this whirlpool. There's a formation on this whirlpool. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He was a level 7 formation Dao Master, and he could see at a glance that the whirlpool was covered by a formation. Moreover, this formation was extremely extraordinary and might have reached level 8 formation Dao Master. This formation was set up by a level 8 formation Dao Master that I found. If the formation is not broken, the true face of this whirlpool will not be revealed at all. Gue Jing explained to Zhuowen while throwing out a formation flag, which landed in the center of the whirlpool, directly below. Cracking sounds could be heard as the formation flags fell into the center of the whirlpool. The surrounding formation was immediately undone, and the small whirlpool rapidly expanded. It was originally only a foot wide, but it expanded to dozens of feet wide in an instant. At the same time, a brand new, surging energy surged out from the depths of the whirlpool. The moment he felt this energy, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a look of surprise. This energy was indeed, as Gue Jing said. It was not chaotic energy, but energy that was much purer and more advanced than chaotic energy. The immemorial star system is shining. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the ancient star system in the sky. Inside the ancient star system, specks of light were surging. These scattered specks of light actually fell into the depths of the vortex, as if they had a tacit understanding. Zhuowen finally understood why Gue Jing said that this place had something to do with the ancient star system. Go, let's go in. Gue Jing's eyes were filled with excitement. He controlled the flying ship and charged into the whirlpool. At the same time, after he had completely entered, he put away the array flags. The whirlpool outside rapidly shrank and once again became an extremely inconspicuous little whirlpool. Inside the whirlpool, Zhuowen discovered that it was very spacious. It was like a vacuum, surrounded by black seawater that was constantly rotating. In the seawater, Zhuowen's divine sense could sense endless evil spirits and the shadows of giant beasts passing by. However, there seemed to be some kind of extremely powerful special energy at the edge of the vortex that kept all the evil spirits and giant beasts outside. The whirlpool was extremely deep. Even with Gue Jing driving the flying ship at maximum speed, it still took them half a day to reach the bottom. At the bottom was a large open space. In the middle of the open space lay a jade coffin. This coffin was very large. It was at least 5 meters tall and dozens of meters long. It lay in the middle of the open space, emitting a lustrous white light. The open space was filled with an extremely rich energy that was being emitted by this coffin. Sect leader, this coffin is? Zhuowen asked. Gue Jing shook his head and said, I'm not sure about the origin of this coffin. When I first found this place, this coffin was already in this open space, and you should have felt it too. The rich energy is being emitted from this coffin. Back then, I was able to advance to the celestial demon transformation so quickly because of the energy here. However, my talent was limited. Although the energy here was abundant, I was still unable to advance further. Zhuowen circled the coffin and found that there were all kinds of mysterious words on the surface of the coffin. These words were words that Zhuowen had never heard of or seen before. However, Zhuowen was surprised to find that when he looked directly at these mysterious words, he felt a sense of dizziness. Zhuowen hurriedly shifted his eyes away, his gaze solemn. He was sure that there was an extremely powerful existence buried in this coffin. Dawen, you should stay here and cultivate during this period of time. I hope that you can break through to the celestial demon transformation as soon as possible. We still have 100 years. If you can successfully break through before the 100 years, then we have hope of rescuing Lingyan. Gue Jing said. He was very clear about Zhuowen's strength. If a deity domain transformation could kill a celestial demon transformation, then once Zhuowen advanced to the celestial demon transformation, he would have the strength of an ancient star transformation. and such strength in the entire Huxley would be considered one of the strongest. Zhuowen nodded and then sat cross-legged beside the coffin. He found that the closer he was to the coffin, the thicker the energy was. Seeing this, Gui Jing could not help but nod and leave. With the energy here, I can at least push my cultivation to the pinnacle of the celestial demon transformation. Zhuowen's eyes shone. He cultivated the primordial technique, and there were no bottlenecks for him to break through. As long as there was enough energy, he could continue to break through. Thinking of this, Zhuowen calmed his heart and began to circulate the primordial technique. Then the surrounding energy became like a whirlpool, rushing into Zhuowen's body with a tyrannical momentum. Zhuowen only felt an indescribable sense of pleasure in his body, and he had the urge to cry out loud. This energy rushed into his meridians like a flood, spreading throughout his body and nourishing his body. Zhuowen's cultivation was also unknowingly rising. Time gradually passed, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Sitting in the middle of the whirlpool, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes, and a vast aura surged out from his body. In these 3 years, his cultivation speed was extremely fast, leaping from the early deity domain transformation to the pinnacle of the deity domain transformation. And today he had finally broken through again, reaching the celestial demon transformation. Boom, boom, boom. Zhuowen stood up, and terrifying sounds of explosions rang out from his body, as if there were terrifying explosions going off inside his body. So powerful! Is this the power of the celestial demon transformation? Zhuowen clenched his fists. He could feel that after reaching the celestial demon transformation, his strength had increased to an extremely terrifying level, many times stronger than when he was at the deity domain transformation. The great heaven-crushing tribulation is about to descend. I wonder if I can survive it here?